in 10 minutes.
Senhoras e senhores, bom
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Be welcome to the second day of the International Conference of the main goal of the event is to foster debates to contribute for a connectivity, universal connectivity, and meaningful in Brazil that has access and generates positive effects in the life of people. The seminar has the main goal to have an environment open for dialogues, the exchange of ideas, and the build of innovation proposals to transform equalities in opportunities and guarantee that no one is left behind on the digital era. We inform you that this event is transmitted online from the TCU web channel in three languages, Portuguese, English, and Spanish. Now we're gonna do a briefly audio description. We are in the auditorium Cisabelo Correia. There's an ample space. We have a sensation of hugeness. We have focus lights to be focused on the speakers. In the stage, we have a dark wood and we have a simple design and straight, and it's the right direction of the ones who watch and watch. My name is Jair Meirelles. I'm in with a black suit, a white shirt, and blue tie. Behind the stage, we have a huge screen with the graphic of the events. It's in blue, and the above left we have about talking about the digital inclusion and social transformation. In the right, we have the two logos, the TCU 35 years and TCU. And on the above, we have the logo, and in the second plan, we have representatives of a people connecting. I'm Davi and I'm white. I have a blue suit, tie, black tie, and blue shirt. And to continue to do inclusive society, now may have the floor the coordinator of programs of the telecommunications, Ana Veneroso. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank for the invitation by TCU to be part of this event in this rainy morning in Brasilia. Uh, I'm gonna speak in Spanish. I'm gonna make my audio description. I'm in a stage that they just described. I'm in the center of the stage. I'm a white woman, light skin, the blonde hair. I'm with a suit of a beige suit and a black shirt. Thank you for the opportunity to invite the Telecommunication International for us from. We in this international organisms for everyone in our countries in a talk that is a guide is for an inclusive digital inclusion. For those who doesn't know, ITU is the organization of the United Nations specialized on technological informations. We have 194 states And with the group, there more than 1,000 companies. They're our partners, private companies, representative of the industries, academies, regional, sub-regionals that are part of our partnerships. We've been working to support these countries to developing and to have the meaningful connectivity and make them to they can connect in a fluid way without interferences through the technological. We have our headquarters in Geneva, and we have representatives in the 6 continents, and we have the regional offices in the region of Americans, OIT. For the Americas is here in Brasilia. We also have a history of cooperation, international cooperation, and we have a lot of offices based on Chile for specific areas, Barbados, and Central America that is in the transition part. And this international organism is the oldest one in the world. We have 160 years. We work to make easy the connectivity. We define international norms for the network and TIC. We support all of the countries where they have the electric radio, uh, elaborating technical norms for this connectivity flow without interference. In other terms, we have our cell phones, our communication flows in a way without interferences. If we call to Japan or get in a meeting or watch a movie in a stream platform with which one we have a high quality, see these norms are is working and they exist without interferences, and we work on that for the digital connectivity for everyone to connect those ones who are not connected and share the knowledge and the capability to develop abilities. For that, UIT, they work in 3 systems from the radio, the regulated aspects of frequencies, and in the international level, the sector of normalization that develop the technical standards, recommendations to ensure this interoperability of the technologies and the communication in all over the world. And the sector of development that foster the international cooperation and offer technical assistance for the countries and making easy the development of the SIG all over the world and all of the countries in development to reduce the digital gap. And with that, we advance on the topic of our event. And when we talk about to reduce the lack of the digital lack, you've been heard since yesterday, this in these conferences and those ones that you participate, we know that is to include those ones who are not connected and give them opportunities that in the world of technology, especially those ones who doesn't have these possibilities. And besides that, they don't have the benefits of them. They are on the martyr of the society and amplifying the inequality, social inequality, because they don't have technological mechanisms. They don't have these apps that helps to access those government services and to access a digital bank and to have a loan, or even the easy tasks when as the ones that we do, that we are connecting with through messages online. And when we work and we reach our goals, we are working to decrease these lacks of the technologies what are the perspective of UIT? The digital is era is more than give technologies. It's look through a perspective that our country advance in a digital agenda based in the infrastructure is very important because inference. TIC infrastructure, it's important because we can use our devices with the level of interoperability that we wanted to. In the other hand, we cannot do that. We cannot do with the benefits that I mentioned before, without the technologies. And that those to have for those who don't doesn't have the opportunity, the marginal zones, and these technologies these parts of the cities that they don't even have electricity. Imagine technologies. So it's for us to give access infrastructure for them to be accessible with the cost of the where the individuals can work through the perspective that in the moment you can count with the devices and made available this the digital part for them to work on and counting with the content of the digital service that is free for everyone and from with regulamentations that support and the country support the government supports that could be inclusive for everyone and they have strategic alliances because we know when we reduce the lack of the digital lack is important and is a multi-sector strategy. Digital inclusion is not only from one entity. It has to count with the support of the academy, the public and private institutions, the sub-regionals organisms and all of the civil society and the chain of support that this process should be included and especially sustainable. What our main challenges? The challenges of UIT is a global one. If from all of us, the main challenges for 2030, we have an agenda to fulfill and with together with the United Nations is to have a to reach a universal connectivity in a meaningful way that we wanted to break a lot of barriers without leaving anyone behind and everyone should be connected. This is our commitment in the United Nations and the technologies, transversal technologies with all of the main goals of developments and we need more 2.6 and 2.8 billions of dollars to achieve this and to be a success. I'm gonna pass a video for you just to illustrate what I've been um, talking to you about. Sem deixar
centered and developed from the bottom up, in compliance with universal design and catering for the abilities and needs of all communities, including those of the elderly and indigenous peoples.
Muchas veces estas tecnologías llegan como a posicionarse dentro de las comunidades sin considerar mucho las formas propias, ¿no? de saber, de sentir,
de saber, de conhecer, de mudar. A inclusão social é
and also a powerful enabler. When technology is built and deployed, considering the needs and values of these communities, it could become a transformative voice for cultural preservation, self-determination and empowerment.
Este proceso de formación aporta a mi comunidad a través de mi persona los conocimientos de alguna manera básicos ¿no? De entrada, de inicio, para que no tengamos como comunidad que estar dependiendo de alguien más, sobre todo de fuera.
Technology needs to be put into the hands of the people who are going to use it, but for that, training and capacity building are key. ITU, in collaboration with other institutions, has been carrying out comprehensive training programs for Indigenous peoples, and in so fulfilling the mandate of its members and stakeholders.
Lo que queremos lograr es una visión crítica de las tecnologías, conocimiento sobre cómo manejarlas, para después apropiarlas y transformarlas en la medida en la que la comunidad quiere solucionar temas o lograr los sueños que se han propuesto.
Want to know more? Visit our website, partner with us, and let us work together to leave no one behind and no one offline.
Muchas gracias. Ese es un programa que hace más de
Quando nós implementamos para as pessoas, para que a gente possa conectar as nossas redes e ter autonomia tecnológica, respeitando o sucesso.
en materia de inclusión digital. Trabajamos en diferentes proyectos, programas e iniciativas orientados a la juventud para que la juventud tenga su voz y puedan apoyar a la UIT también en decisiones estratégicas, participar de nuestras actividades y que podamos escuchar cuáles son las necesidades de la juventud en todas partes del mundo en materia de inclusión digital.
It's a part of the process of the inclusion of the digital. We have a lot of programs that we can count, since the ones of the children that celebrate every year, and the different ones that we have in all of the countries of the world. We support all of the resources that we have on the ITU, and the problems is a part of this process, and especially it's correlated of this vulnerable group. I commented this morning with Fernando Roros that we are working on, but for next year we start a study from the Latin American to understand what are the necessary the needs that in Brazil on the part of policies and economy to say that this group can be benefit with these technologies, considering that the worry that until 2030 the group over 65 years is going to be above of the other of the youth in this and this says that we can prepare the society for them to grow old in a better way and mark the age of the healthy aging that celebrates, and we can consider it that the society is getting older, and we have to see that that this group is included. Oh, this group of 65 years old and above go back to work. We have to prepare the society for the real estimatives and the imminent need, and we hope that we can go back next year to show the results of this study, and we have this guide the studies with the indigenous people and original people that are focused on all over the world, not only on South American and Latin American, and also they are guides to have access, inclusive access, and through the TICs, and we count with different resources like online courses, material of studies that we have in our website, especially in South America. In the Americas, we have our 12 edition of this Accessible American, that is our main strategy in the accessible, and we invite you all to be in Guatemala from the 28th of October in this event of this regional platform that is of digital inclusion and accessibility.
In this page that I'm sharing with you, those are the resources that are at your disposal for free in our official websites. And this project, you can see what are the areas in which we work with the digital inclusion and these groups that are represented in the screen. We also count on the E2 Academy. We offer a lot of courses, online courses, in person, and I've put some titles that are merely some examples of other groups and courses that I just at your disposal and the information on the platform for the ones who want to learn a little bit more about artificial intelligence, financing, connectivity, and digital transformation for the public sector. Workshops of regulation that we take for a lot of countries and cooperation of the UN and other resources disposable the platform. And talking about the pillars on the digital inclusion, we talk about access and connectivity that of course we've been talking about. It's important to expand the structure of the broadband in the whole world, especially in those remote areas that are vulnerable, and considering that in the data that is more updated since last year, 68% of the world population utilize the internet. Although we see some gaps, a third of the population is not connected. In numbers, this translates into 5,500 million people are online. That represents a increase considering the 2023 in 2027 millions of people and then we have 2,600 millions that are not connected, and 1,800 million people are in rural zones. And we need to think about the strategies we're going to adopt to make the groups that are more isolated and far away be able to take the benefits of the technology. And I also show, and talking about the issue that is a little bit more far away in the community, Chaco community, that is the remote region and border with Argentina, Bolivia, and Paraguay. In this project, we took computers to the people, GACLE, which is from Paraguay, Chaco, with Anatel and other institutions. And as we're saying, it's impossible to do this process with digital inclusion that is not multi-sector and with other sectors as well. The chic of a society. So I took this picture on Chaco when we installed the computers and the mothers were close to their children, and you can notice that for the first time maybe they touched the computer. And this photo is the representation, very clear representation, that if we say that the children are digital natives, would this actually be true? And when we think about public policies that are oriented on the digital inclusion, we need to focus on the ones that are on the zones. What are the necessities they have? Do they have electricity? What are the costs of energy in that zone? And it was 43 degrees Celsius at this day. Is a classroom that doesn't have air conditioning. In which conditions do they study? There is not even the minimum equipment for that. And I would even go further and say about the climate change. Chaco is very affected by the climate change. And they would talk to us about this young people. And when you pass on a cable to take energy to them, or even cables that will connect to internet, for instance, there is a kind of bird that would eat that kind of cable. So it's not so simple. You cannot only give the structure, you have to understand the place, the locality, and see what policies and actions we're going to take to respect the necessities of those populations. The data shows us that the gaps are getting smaller, but we still have this disparity. And in general, I know that the presentation is going to be available and the time is short, but I would like to highlight that the gaps are very big. We're talking about access, ingress, and it exists between the countries, the urban gaps, and those are one of the ones that are more persistent. The gender gap that has, they're very intelligent when it has to this direct impact on the GDP worldwide, and we need to close that gap. And on a worldwide level, between 5 people older than 10 possess a smartphone, and most people are accessing internet in the whole world. So 95% of people older than 10 have a cell phone. In this economy, if we compare with 96% with low budgeting countries, and we talk about 5G, it would reach the estimate of the worldwide population in 2024, but there's still a big gap of people in those countries with high budgeting has coverage with 5G, and low budgeting countries is 4%, lower than 4%. This is an illustration so we can see that the whole world, the number of users that are individual by internet per world has been incremented, but we still have gaps. The disparity of the usage on the rural and urban area is a very big disparity when it comes worldwide. But if we see in the Latin America, Europe, well, there is disparity in America, not as different as compared out on Africa and Asia also, that apparently there is this bigger gap between classes. This is the numbers that are shown 2024. Another pillar of digital inclusion is the gap of content that will have 70% or more of the population of 15 years old should have basic digital abilities in 2030. This is a target that is far away still because it needs investment that I talked about, and the challenge is to create local content. If we take that into practice, that as I was saying, the computers that we take to these children in the Chaco region, it's an attitude and a starting point. The community has their own language and it doesn't have any content in their language. So we always ask the question, do they have teachers that talk Spanish and translators? Would all the devices have accessibility on those local communities? This is a question that I ask myself, but we know that is a recommendation that we'd have this universal drawing and accessible to all. Not up
and communication technologies in Latin America. In addition to the courses that have been offered online, a hybrid program was added in 2019 that had the objective of training indigenous promoters in the region for them to be able to develop, manage, and maintain their telecommunication networks and communication media in their territories. This program is based on the methodology and needs of the training in indigenous communities of Latin America and has been carried on thanks to the collaboration from the design stage between the Regional Office for the Americas and the ITU Office for Digital Inclusion, with people and organizations directly linked to indigenous communication in the region. The participants of the program have experience in the development of communication and/or telecommunication projects in indigenous communities, so the indirect beneficiaries of this training process are the people who live in the territories where the graduates implement their projects. The program is made up of 5 online courses of 4 weeks each and 1 bootcamp. The online phase is developed in ITU Academy, and the courses cover topics where participants reinforce their knowledge on technical issues regarding the critical use of technologies, regulatory environment, as well as financial and social sustainability relevant to their projects. In the bootcamp, 3 elements of the training process are reinforced: consolidation of a network of people from the communities that accompany them in their project's development, applying knowledge and technical skills in real contexts, strengthening local processes in the territory where the bootcamp takes place. So far, 3 generations of the program have graduated. The participants have come from 13 countries in the region, and 45% of the graduates are women. This process has been possible thanks to the constant collaboration with organizations in the region and co-founders that make possible the development of the bootcamp. This hybrid training program has given good results, since a solid network of community technical promoters has been formed, who develop projects for the direct benefit of their communities and regions.
Gracias.
Thank you. Just illustrating that we capacitate building of when we take the community, they're ready to maintain their community network and the devices that they can get through corporations, and that we have this technological autonomy so we can follow up with their daily activities. The other illustrations that we've been talking about can show that even though we have the disparity is different from equity. There is this disparity from men and women in the world. And when it comes to having access to internet, and in the Americas, we're talking practically when it comes to men and women, the level of access to internet. And when we're talking about equity as well, it doesn't mean that the woman doesn't have the same opportunities as men. But why is it important to focus on that? Because this gap of gender is beyond of justice social, is it an intelligent strategy for the countries, because the strategy will take to the development social and economical, and closing this gap will could increase the GDP worldwide $5 billion, and taking a lot of women out of poverty and integrating more than 60 million people, women through the digital platforms. It could increase the GDP to $18 million, and that means education, jobs, opportunities, and digital community, health, studies, financing, and have a bigger support and promote human rights as well. So when we think about social inclusion, I know that I'm out of time, okay? We have to think about all those elements, and that's why I go back to the concept of connectivity that is go beyond of the provision of infrastructure and access, is to think that those gaps is for these people to have equality and opportunities. All the vulnerable groups that I've shown, especially women, that have this inclusive process that provoke the economical development, can actually take advantage of the connectivity. But more important than that, why this process is intelligence, because women, there are studies that say that they're responsible than more than 80% of the decisions of consumptions. Those are women. So them as chiefs of the home and entrepreneurship leaders of the community, they're the ones that will take the decisions of consumption. But if they're not with the technology worldwide, it's harder that those numbers will increase. So the challenge in the gender is through this study of the UN is this investment of $360 million, and this equality will perpetuate in women worldwide. This inequality is linked to poverty, and for 100 men and 25 to 35 years, there are 122 women in the same situation. If the tendencies will persist, the number of women in poverty is going to increase, and this estimates that in 2030, 1 in each 4 women between 15 and 49 years old will live in poverty, extreme poverty, if we don't take significant action. And I did this precision with the digital, because the digital inclusion with digital social inclusion with this disparity and Poverty, this process needs to go hand in hand as one of the systems of the conference of social development a month ago here in Brazil, and it was discussed exactly the transversality of those themes. Finally, this video so I can show a little bit the project that we implemented in Brazil, Mexico, Argentina to leverage the digital inclusion of women, of girls in this community. But we gave studies to those countries analyzing policies that are strategical that they can, with our recommendation, to adopt to improve their process of digital inclusion. We do apologize, we cannot hear the video. Huh. And how to give life to our characters. And the objective of this digital storytelling, that women came out of here with this recorded story. They will narrate, they will their own story, and have learning softwares, editing videos, and at the end they will come out of this story ready in their hands. We had a script about a story, and then we recorded an audio track, and we did the audio video and transform it into video with some images. The workshop that I have to come to teach here is about programming drones. This is a super new topic. It's a pleasure to be able to bring this to the girls so that they can also be encouraged to code. And more than this, that they see a drone as a platform where they can apply programming and computational thinking. We came from Thomas as a team to tutor a group of 20 girls in this partnership project. So what we can do to unite this company with works hand-on education with 17-year-old schoolgirls and digital tasks. We empower them with block education, we empower them with digital tools, and to work together as they are learning. Today I worked with the girls in the Arduino workshop, and the aim is to show them that robotics and these technologies are accessible and that they can work in this as much as any other area. With the leadership workshop, we hope that the girls can be the protagonists of their own stories, and they can hold leadership positions and lead projects in EFP and lead projects in the schools that they study at and in society as a whole. This project has finished in 2023. We now seek other partners to keep implementing. We've signed a agreement with Meta that has been cooperating with us, and we've done research with most of the girls that were part of it, and 80% of the research shows that this process as this, with 2-3 days in this direct contact with technology, can change their perceptions and influence in the career decision. And this was the results of our research. We cannot do this alone. There are a lot of entities that are involved in implementing. We've known a school in the satellite zone in Brasilia, and it seems even more challenging than anything else because there are other social problems that only the technology cannot overcome. So we count on this network of support and other entities that make the project that is a success.
The next 4 years of telecommunications of Elastic is It's gonna be in 2000 and, through 17, 28 in Baku, Azerbaijan, and our international conference telecommunication, and that all of the countries are going to define what are going to be the next strategic lines of actions and what initiatives and projects and programs that we have been working on it. And I invite you all to watch these conferences and of through our website. That is going to be available for you until this year. And I thank a lot for the opportunity to show you the work of IUT, and we are here for you. Thank you very much. We thank Ana Veneroso for your presentation. We invite for you to take a seat in the first row of the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, we're going to start the panel of experience of international experience, and we're going to inform you for those ones that are in here and present. You're going to can ask questions, and you have a form for us to fulfill. And for those who are in YouTube, the questions may be through the chat. And after each panel, the questions are gonna be made for the moderator. Before we follow with these programs, we inform you all for the that during the whole event there will be available a QR code for sending contributions and suggestions for the national plan of digital inclusion. It has been elaborated for the working group of interministerial working group. As you pointed your cell phone camera to the QR code, you're going to be directed to a form with simple questions where you can register your ideas, criticisms, and proposals. This is an open channel of active listening, and all of the contributions that we receive for the present audience and the virtual one, they are going to be read it and sharing with the working group for forming the plan. For the fourth panel, we invited the director of the audit, especially audit of technologies of the TCU, and moderator Paulo Cisnando. The specialist of the development and of company and sustainable for Latin American and Caribbean, Fernando Rojas. The national coordinator of the aging program of subdivisions of participation of the National Service of the Elderly, Javier Sanguesa. And to conclude, virtual with us, we have the consult of digital government of the division of capacity of the state of international development, Martina Menz. And we ask for the team of video and audio for the virtual guests and the specialized of new technologies of digital secretary of government of Peru, Gabriela Susana Garcia Guaranya. With the word Paulo Cisnando, that through now is going to conduct the panel and the presentations. Good morning, everyone, and for the presence and for those who are watching us in the YouTube, all of the colleagues in the South America. We are gonna start the panels of some success experiences, international success experiences. I'd like to thank you, Anna, for IUT for her talk. Basically, she presented what we have to discuss over here and gave us a global point of view of these connections. And yesterday we had panels about Brazilian experiences, and today we're gonna have more panels about the experiences of the states and municipalities and the federal government, and also experiences of the private entities and civil society organizations. And with that, we can uh, 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 active whole game, and so the reality showed the reality that for us in Brazil we have our regional inequalities, but we have countries that are more inequality than ours. And IUT in other events we saw this. That's something that is very regular for us, but in all the other countries we have digital exclusion, a social exclusion, and our main goal is to, of course, decrease the inequality, a regional one and social one, and increase the development. And we heard Fernando, and he's gonna talk about the CEPAL, and Martina the IBD, and then Javier is gonna talk about the experiences in Chile with the elderly, and Gabriela is gonna talk about the sensibility, the experiences in Peru. And what we notice is that when we talk about digital inclusion, as we saw yesterday, and I'm gonna see through the day, we're gonna talk. We're talking about the access also is university, because actually doesn't see gender. It's gonna be gonna have the structure of cell phone, but the main focus should be in this inequality that we saw and we are still gonna see, of gender, age, region. So even if the structure is here in this auditorium and each one of them has a different experiences, even if they are young, we saw the data that Anna showed us. We have to work with that, with the Brazilian state and the whole world. And we have here in Brazil, we were working on the national plan of digital inclusion, and we have to learn a lot with the experience of other countries. And we also believe that we have a lot to contribute to the other countries with the experiences that we have here in Brazil already, and we're gonna still have. So I'm gonna pass the floor to Fernando and show the experience of Cepal. Thank you, Fernando. Muito obrigada, Paulo. Thank you, Paulo, for the presentation. Start liking to thank the organizers for the invitation. It's an honor to be in this event and to share with you some of the work that we are doing in Sapal about the digital inclusion, and specifically on the meaningful connectivity. Sapal is one of the of economical organizations in Latin America and Caribbean, and our main goal is to support the governments of the development of public policies in different topics. As I said before, I'm going to focus about what is meaningful connectivity, and to start I'm going to show you some statistics that I'm going to show you here. For an example, about the topic of connectivity, as traditionally we measured before, and we saw in this period of 10 years that we have as a reference, is very important, and we have a growth in the region. As I said before, we kind of double the numbers of the places that have connectivities. In some of the countries, we compare the countries, and we see that this growth was equal. As I mentioned before, the indicators were used in a good way, and it's a overview that is very interesting. We start to analyze some of the details that we have, and some of specific lacks that the scenario is different. In this case, what I'm going to show you is that each one of these columns over here is the difference between the places that has more access and other ones that doesn't have a lot of access. And the region, they also advance because the lack is decrease of 51% to 30. But each one of the countries, we see that it's not like that. We have some countries that like Bolivia and Paraguay, that where the slack like complete each other. We see some problems and challenges over here. The slack that we also highlight is one of the persistent and complex that we found in the region. That is the lack of the geography zone. We see that on the last 10 years reduce in a limited way. But the most important problem is that a lot of countries, this gap decrease for most of it, like Bolivia, El Salvador, and Paraguay. I'm gonna mention some other elements that we're gonna talk about. We are doing an analysis of meaningful connectivities, and another feature that we have to consider is the topic of the quality of the connection. It's like we can see some data over here of the speed in these regions. It advanced a lot into through 2014 and to 2024 25. The speed increased more than 16 times. But we see all of the indicators in all of the countries of the regions. We see a lot of differences. We see like Chile and Brazil, they are in the level of developed country, but we can see Honduras and Bolivia and Dominican Republic, that they are very delayed on these. Why is important these variables, and we can point at the definitions, these topics of this connectivity and quality of these ones. What can we use of them? And the exercise that we took in Sepao, and I invite you all to see that, because we have relevant indicators about this topic and estimatives of the speed that is required to use of artificial solutions. For an example, for the basic ones, is it needs like at least 10 uh, megabytes, and more than 50 bytes per second, megabytes per second, and they have advanced more than 100 or 2000 megabytes per second. And so what we're seeing here, that is not enough to be connected, and considering other features for this connectivity to be meaningful. And another element that we can say that we have in this board, that is, I think, believe is very important, is the type of the determinant device. Is an exercise that we have of high resolution, a medium one and a low one, the same features and kind of connections, and we compare it about without with connecting with a telephone with high age and the low age, and they are very meaningful in the case of Brazil. Using a telephone of high gamma, it made a experience very good, and the download speed of 140,000 megabytes per second. With the same considerations, the low gamma is the speed of only 15 megabytes per second. So are the elements that limitate the users and access the services. In the case of Bolivia, there is another extreme. The difference is 40 to 5. I would like only to make some comments over here. We are talking about people and places, but there is another element that we cannot forget. That is the need of digitalization and the option of the digital systems of productive ones that are gonna show you the solutions for all of the structure problems that we have in the region, like the low productivity. So I'd like to show you here that in the case of Argentina and Brazil and Chile, practically they is like 98% of the companies are small companies, and they are going to face the same challenges and problems that the places that the people access of the meaningful connectivity. Precisely because of all of this analysis and evaluating, that we should have an integrated approximation in this program of connectivity, that in CEPAL, in the framework of the regional, we decided to form a group, a working group taken by references the work that the IUT developed of the accessible internet and the United Nations, and they decided to work on this topic with some main goals, and one of them is to work on to have a consensus in what should be the elements is that they have to have on the what it is the meaningful connection, and they develop an indicator that can measure the meaningful connectivity in the region, and the next one is to apply it in general. What we determinate on the group, and as we said before, about the work of other organization and the proposal that CEPAL did, and the digital connectivity has to have some elements to be available, frequent to use, and be relevant in terms of content and quality, safe, reliable, accessible, and active by a lot of adequate devices. That is a determined element. In this way, in the framework of the group, we identify a work that developed at TIC, and Gabriela show about this methodologies through details, but this is aligned what we decided in the group. We have some adjustments, and we work on the working on the methodologies, and we have basically four dimensions. One that is the financial one, of the teams, of the connections, and the fourth of frequencies and places of using. And there is 9 indicators, and through this evaluation that we do of all of these 9 indicators is classify the populations in in about of this table that we have here under the right. We understand that they are connected meaningfully. These methodologies, as I mentioned before, were developed by CITIC, and they implemented in the case of Brazil, and they presented some interesting results. I'm going to show you one. And yesterday, Graciela showed some different terms to analyze in the case of gender, rural area, and we can see here in the case of Brazil that 9% of 2016 they connected meaningfully, and in 2024 we are 22. And we can do in this framework of work is to work on it in other countries, and I'm going to share other works with you. One of the first countries that we worked was with Chile, and it was an interesting work, and not only the result but all the process. It was this, we had an agreement with the telecommunications by Chile, and some other elements and some needs about of, um, the availability of this information that we need in the Chile, and they have 33% of the population are meaningful connected, and we identified what are the elements that is within these indicators, and we to have to take more attention on that. The lower percentage of the population that we have, we can cross the data about the topics of rural area. That is the persistent one, and the differences are very high, and we see the traditional indicators over here against the collective one or 12% that is in the rural area are connected meaningfully. And we did the same work in the Dominican Republic, and the results are different. The number of the connected people is around 21%, but the critical elements in this case is they are connecting they are aligned with the connections, and through all of the number of the devices that they use, and about the plans that they have on the mobile internet.
Today we've been working and having the same exercise with Costa Rica and Ecuador and Peru, and we want to recuperate in regional level and do this comparison more broad in the terms of the countries in the region to see the elements that they have in common and identify some challenges in terms of information. In the case of the Dominican Republic and Chile, and relation to the differences that we have when we measure the significative connectivity, when 10% of people would have this significative connection. And I would like to do a comparison of what is the traditional indicator, which are people with access, and other indicators with to highlight the fact that if we're only basing ourselves on one indicator, we can have conclusions that are very different. Here, if we only have the indicator of people, in the case of the ones that have access, we have this connectivity is already solved. In Chile, 97% of people have access to internet. But if we consider other elements that we've been discussing since yesterday, we are doing reference to a connectivity that if it's really transformative, that is have the rights in mind and have possibilities of different activities. In that region, we have a lot of challenges. Chile characterizes itself as the systems of digital transformation in that region, and we see this very big inequality, and we consider that this indicator or this approximation can allow also to the governments to enhance their development of their public policies and focus on some elements. To conclude, I'd like to talk about a theme that also came out and we're working inside of the group, which is digital skills. One of the elements that is fundamental in the themes of significant connectivity is the theme of digital tools, and we've been working as we've incorporated an index, measurement in relation to the digital skills, and giving this measurement is a fundamental complement. And I will say that also that we are doing a study that is based in an European model of digital competencies, and we are putting it in the adapting it to the local context to have this harmonious conception that we can do this measurement and incorporate it to the indicator of significant connectivity. I do believe that I did well with the time. I think the invitation, and I'm at your disposal at if you have any questions. Thank you. It was very interesting, and I saw a little bit of Brazil and I had two other countries, and we'll see the experience of other countries. And I'd like now to Martina. I do believe that you're here. Not Martina, I'm sorry. Is it? Yeah, well, hello, Martina. Good morning. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Yes, if you could do your presentation, please. Perfect. I'll just share it. Can you confirm if you're seeing my screen in presentation mode? Not yet. There's a little bit of a delay. Just wait for a little bit. Well, there it is, Martina. It's showing it to us. Perfect. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. In the name of BG, I'd like to thank you for the invitation. Who doesn't know me? I'm Martina Beggi. I am consulting of the digital systems in BG, and I work with Brazil and other countries, and I'm based here in Washington. And the mission that I've received to present this is to share some of the insights of the study that we've published in the beginning of this year, and that talks about the usage of digital public services in Brazil, that we've crossed the factors that are for this usage of digital platforms, considering that the discussions that you've been having in the seminar of connectivity that is significant, there are the conditions for the citizens to utilize those public services, digital public services, in the most effective way. So what I thought about the roadmap that I'm just going to show you so we can focus on some insights that are more interesting for this event is to tell you a little bit about this research, what is the methodology, and go into the habilitative factors and what are the preconditions for the citizens so they can access and utilize effectively the public services that are digital, and get into some data of the usage of the public services in a general way and a specific way when it comes to digital, and going to different groups and understanding where are the gaps. And everyone who's watching, I think they've been following up on how Brazil has done this expansion of digital use in federal level and state and municipality levels. And just to follow up, we'd like to understand if other citizens are aware of this expansion and try to understand a little bit better how the demand is for those services, starting on those habilitated factors. So the skills factors. So I'm going to bring the data from Brazil, and we're going to present this regional study that has been done in 10 countries. Brazil is one of them, and we try to compare the Brazil and other countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. The questions, it's not exactly those ones. What are the gaps of access and usage of the digital services, if has been benefited everyone in the same way, and what are the strategies that we can adopt to try and guarantee that this digital transformation of the public services is more inclusive. So going to the methodology so you can understand the results that I'm going to share a little bit in a little bit are the representative service of all the Brazilian population that has interviewed 2,000 people in their homes and all the region of Brazil with this sample. And I'm not going to go into detail, but just so you know, the sample is aligned with the characteristics of the population, and the characteristics that you can see on the left, sex, age, scalarity, area, color, race, and disabilities are the population cutout, so we can compare the results that I'm going to show in a little bit. So enabling factors is aligned with the literature and what would be the preconditions that are necessary for the people to use those public digital services in a general way. We asked questions on the survey with connectivity, access to devices that are necessary to do those solicitations of the services, and digital skills, the ones that we've been seeing in the previous presentations as well. In terms of access, and it wouldn't be access, it would be usage of internet. We've had an answer that 84.5 Brazilians of average, they say that they use internet daily, but when you see the minorities in population, you have a little bit of inequality there that is very significant. If you get age, for instance, we can see that is 30% difference when you compare young people and people with more than 55 years old. So here there is, and when you get into the rural and urban, we have cutouts, we have and then disabilities, there is this significant differences in this usage as well. We've done a sum of the Brazilians that affirmed not to use internet in the last 3 months. And the interesting thing is that 64% of those Brazilians that haven't used internet are in the intersectionality of high school and people with more than 55 years old. And going to the second enabling factor is the access of the devices. I think it's a very known data for the theme of digital services. Very important that those digital services are of responding on the cell phone, because most people in Brazil have access to a cell phone in their homes, but the access to a computer is way smaller. So we're taking about a third of the population with access to a computer in their homes. And again, we're going to get the population cutouts, and we see those differences that are very significant. And when we're talking about people until the high school, this number goes down to 14% compared to 65% with the superior education. So we have those inequalities on the access of devices in Brazil. And going to the third enabling factor of the conditions that are necessary for the usage of those digital services, we asked questions about the confidence that the Brazilians have in some digital skills that we've asked. And you can see that this confidence is a little bit moderate and goes down as long as the tasks that we're asking are a little bit more complex. And I'm just gonna highlight two skills on the emails with attachments and digitalization of documents. And half of the Brazilian population is not confident to do this kind of action in the internet. And those are two skills that normally the governments require for the citizens in doing those public services and having solicitations and procedures in the government. And here is the same data, but bringing the differences of the cutouts, population cutouts, and you can see again the same gaps that have been repeating themselves in the group. So people with more than 55 years old, people with low education, residing in local areas and disabilities, they don't trust their skills in digital modes. It's below average of the Brazilian population in this theme. So here the three enabling factors comparing with the distribution of the regions in Brazil, in which we can see some interesting data of differences in regional spots, and north and northeast have the biggest gaps. So if you get the question of the daily usage of internet, as average in Brazil is 85.5%. If you go to the north, it's 77.6%. And if you get the possession of computers, is 34% more or less. If you go to the north, it's 17.5%. So there is this difference regionally that on those three factors that we've evaluated in the research. So going to the second block, if you're considering trying to understand where the gaps in the factors that enable those digital services, trying to deepen and how this usage has been and the preferences of the citizens and how are these interactions. This first data is a little bit about the usage of public services in general without focusing on the channels. And you can see that this usage is bigger between young people and people with more schooling. So you see 66.3% affirmed that they used public service in the last year, and you see that this data is a little bit overrated of the administration data, but it has to do with the perception of the citizens with the usage of digital services or digital services in general. And people with more schooling has this frequent contact with the public services. If you go to the digital services in particular, between those users in public services, 42.8% has utilized at least one digital service in the last year. But when you see the population cutouts, you see that there are significant differences. 51% of the young people has used the digital services. Only 26% with people with more than 55 years old has used those services. When you see schooling, there is this gap of 40 only 23% of the people until basic education have used these digital services, and 63.2% with superior education has used those services. So this gap also, when you're looking of this daily cutout rural and urban, and specifically when you're using color or race, or also exists when it comes to disabilities. This is a more positive data between the Brazilians have used these digital services. Most of them thought it was easy to do so, and the variations of the population groups were a little bit smaller and being significant only the difference between where we're looking to the cutout when it comes to schooling, as it was predicted. And this is a sum up, just this descriptive statistic, and it goes on to the line of what would be hoped. And Brazilian and the citizens that are not using frequently the internet, they use those digital services that are small as well, and the ones that don't have access to a computer don't have that are not using it as much, and people are getting a little bit more confident in their skills. The usage of digital services is going to increase progressively as well. This is a little bit about the preferences of the citizens for the usage of the channels. And we know that the most part of the population, that 57.2% of the public services, they prefer to be in person to have those services done. And their preferences align to the gaps that I've been showing with the different groups. So people a little older prefer to be in person, and disabilities as well, in rural areas as well. So this is interesting, I think, when you go on the reasons why you prefer in-person channels. It's not necessarily associated with the difficulty to access. They are related to other themes that don't have anything to do necessarily with infrastructure or difficulties on the usage of internet, but to do with the lack of experiences to access those digital services and the availability of those services and interacting with the workers as well. And I think this one is thinking about the policies of digital government. We know that even though we have the preference for the citizens to have them in person, the costs for the citizen and the government, they are bigger in person services. So it's just taking the time of that citizen to do the solicitation of services. They are medium, the cost is almost 60 reais for the presential cost. When we compare to the digital services, it's 6 reais. So there is a reason for the stimulation of digital services for that citizen that has access and possibilities of using it. And here we'll go back to the themes for the division of the differences, regional differences. As we've been seeing in enabling factors, they reproduce themselves in the pattern of usage of the digital services again, with the North and Northeast having data below average in Brazil. And going a little bit for the implications, they are very simplified, starting on what the data is bringing, the more significant in the study. I'd like to bring some bullet points, just stop my, to finish my presentation. Just the public services is important, so they respond to the mobile phones. There's no use having a platform that is only responsive to computer, considering the data as the cell phone, mobile phones is more disseminated as a means of public services, and necessity to invest on those programs, focusing on the vulnerable groups that don't have so much confidence in their skills so they're able to use those public digital services, and it goes beyond the use of digital services as well. And this is the motto of who's working in the digital government It's important that they're drawn thinking about the citizens, different characteristics of those citizens that are going to be soliciting those services, and including those people that are in this process of service, and also having the multi-channel approach. And we know that part of the population don't have the preconditions necessary to use those digital services, so incentivizing the channels for the citizens that have the possibility to do so. And the presence in-person offers, the people who depend on those channels is a significant group as well. And just to talk about the importance of having this research with this local context, to have this operation, and other governments have similar data that can guide the formulation of these policies in a more inclusive way. I'll leave my I'll leave the QR code for the research, or whoever wants to download it. And I'm also at the disposal for any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Martina. It was a very interesting study, especially now that is going to amplify for all of the Latin American countries and the Caribbean, and you can have a bigger view of this. But I believe that Brazil has a lot of facts that I believe that is from other countries also. All of the governments are working on this digital transformation in a way that we have to think about the other side of the IDB, and the state thinks of a digital services that is public to attend everyone. Here in Brazil, we have the difficulty to access, and that is it's not possible to deliver your we have to have this option of the citizens to present to want us to deliver this income tax, but usually in Brazil we do it online, so it's important to have a device. It was a very important presentation from Gabriela. The Javier is gonna talk about the experience in Chile of the digital for elderly, and also the presentation by Fernando and Martina, and from Anna, that is the perspective of the elderly people to have access to this connectivity as a whole. So Javier, if you want to start to talk about experience in Chile, please. Good morning, everyone. I'm very grateful to be here with this invitation by TCU to talk a little bit about the experiences of Chile, of our strategy, of the inclusion of elderly people. I have a problem with this device for my presentation. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to give you a background, what is my services for the elderly, and to understand a little bit what we've been developing to be here at this point. This national service from the elderly, if from the Ministry of Family, it was created, and his main goal was to deliver to the people from 65 years plus, to give solutions for them for their problems, what affect us. It was the main goal, focus of the existence for them. And recently, in 2017, we started the Inter-American Convention of the Rights of the Elderly People of we suffer a important transformation, and we like to see the people not only as objects of protections, but as a person with rights. We have to worry about having a care, extra care, and also to think as people that is part and maintain actives in the civil society that still wanted to learn and to be part of the society. That is a treat that is gives the right of the elderly, and it's a complete norm. Is a it's an instrument in our countries that is on the law, and they got together the laws about the rights of elderly, and it's passing a social transformation about the perception of the people. And I also like to talk a little bit about the features, social demographic features that we saw and we experience of the civil service for elderly in our country. Our country do have more than 8 million people, but only 19% are 65 and above. So we are one quarter of the population. Can see the man and the woman, and it's important to get to know them. Which one of them are dependent, and what are the ones that can do that are independent. It's like 77.8% they are totally independent, and they maintain them in the society, and they wanted to be there to be part of the society. And due to this paradigm that it was with this part of the convention and the social demographics reality in Chile and our services, we have this extra three axes. And the first one is right promotions, that is for the people, for those who are getting older, they have their rights. So to contribute for them to do this exercise of their rights in this convention. On the other hand, we have the cares that we have to take of of these populations, that is fewer people, but they have to be dignified and have a focus on the rights about and finally, the acts of participations would like to foster the autonomy and participations of the elderly. In this participation acts, there is a program of active aging that I am coordinator since 2013 in all of the regions of the country, and since 2024, it 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 suffered transformation to contemplate the participations not only on the tradition. There are these physical spaces that can be a club of elderly people, and also in the digital participation of this program. The people are self-sufficient of 16 65 plus, and we focus on the law. They need opportunities to social participation. They are very quickly in other services. And how can we see this, that the challenge of the digital inclusion for the elderly? And we live in a hybrid association. W- We are taking, but we are also doing these programs in person in the club of elderly people, with the people that all over the world in our country. As Fernando said, we have a great advance of this. We have more than 16 million of that all of the Chile the all of the people in Chile can do online work, and they are able to do this online services. And 2 years ago, the internet was a public service it's by law, but we have a warranted that the internet can go to all over the country, and we have access to the internet as 23%, and it's evolving constantly. So to understand this evolution, we advance with no, and today effectively this social security, the health, the culture, and to have access to all of this change normally with the digitalization, and really exists this opportunity to access this through the website. But then we have some points. There are the digital legs that is for elderly people that we approach this in other opportunities and social economies that point out that the elderly people are as the basic need is of looking for internet connections and other that are related to the digital part. And we also have a gap of the gender and age that we can see. There are a few people that are in the 80 peoples has a previous experience with the huge computers that allow them today to add as a more knowledge what are the new digital tools of genders. Just might say that women of this area they have to have a care of their children, that they didn't have access to the technologies that today they have in a clear situation. And so it's very important. And we have also the discrimination by age, the stereotype about the elderly people and the society, and the they themselves don't believe that they are capable to do the things that it has been ongoing. And it's very important as a point of view of looking at the creation of the content of the apps and the web. They don't see that they're gonna have this. The elderly has different needs, that they have a simple language and have to adjust these designs to be for all. And this depends on threats that can be that depend of other people to do what they have to do in the websites on the internet. They don't have this autonomy, this independence. And so, and the capability of them of looking for information in the internet. So, in this point of view, is direction to we are covered by the law that we have in Chile, but they contemplate the social perceptions and the real possibilities of the use of elderly people to these motivations that they may have. They feel that, and then we can do so. Since then we have this new strategies for for elderly people and we have interinstitutional collaboration for our telecommunications company that work on that and see that they and give the internet for all of them for quality to everyone. Cinema, that is a entity that is worrying about these initiatives about the development, development of education and digital, and a government that can do it effectively for the digital society, on how can the elderly people can uh, use all of the services in the same way and promote a dialogue effectively with them. Within the sanctions that we have in Senama, the actions that we do in Senama, I'm going to talk about the classes of digital inclusions that we develop for elderly people and the guidance for them and the manual of the use of technologies. They have classes for digital inclusion that we've been developing since 2022, and until now we benefit more than 150 elderly with these workshops. And we have a range of through all of the genders, and we wanted to prioritize that more for the woman, the elderly woman also. Since 2024, 364 were elderly women for doing these texts. We had a proportion of people that were vulnerable, elderly, or live in the rural area that we go when they most need this talk and these classes. 54 of the 64 were at the rural area. That allow them the autonomy. We teach them to have this autonomy in the digital era. Something that is very important for us that we can see that we are expert for do that. We are focused on the elderly people. We have a presentation that is none of the classes are the same of each others, and so we get to know them, these elderly people, see what they like, what they dislikes, what their worries, and in what they believe that technology can improve their daily the day by day, that in a way then we can start in a flexible area and the teams can adjust it for them. That is the content that we define for this population. And most of these classes, they were less interested on it, but at least they have a previous experiences, and one of them that include more. So in this report, the professional had to have experiences with elderly people, and they have to have discipline that work with the cognitive, the therapy, and not only profession of technologies. We focus also on this of working small groups to have a more personal attend, and the elderly people can be a protagonisms in this within this workshops, and they can empower themselves and support one another, and we foster this. We have the most element like WhatsApp, social medias, online treatments, prevention of fraud, detection of fake news, and video calls and safe navigations. As I said before, none of the workshops are the same as one another. And with this, we have a technical specialist is on the aging. So I'd like to share this workshop that we did, that it commented that through this diagnosis we're focused on the easy parts and the basic parts, and they only can answer the phone. Now they advance and they start using the WhatsApp, that they can notice that they have a special value if they wanted to communicate to their family, and then they explore the YouTube and notice that they can do a work on it, and remember the past, and foster the the idea of use and access the emails that for them were important to do treatments to this with the states, and also learn to use the keynote to have the like the subsides and pay their own electric bill. And then I show here some workshops that they we are doing. We have the Quinta Normal, that is a community in Santiago that are connected to the public transportation. People can, the elderly can be, they can come from the public transportation, especially if those ones who have some special needs. And then we have the one from Rio Ibanez region, Aysén region, and this village over there is 20 kilometers from the border of the Argentina with Argentina, and to get there is very hard. We have to have the support of the community and the municipality for these people can get there when it's snowing. And of course, the first one were different.
They're very interested in getting to know the apps and this public part to know when there's the bus, which buses are going through, and the rivers that are more interested in doing this tremits that didn't have to do our commute for the main community, and presentially they couldn't get there. So to conclude, I'd like to talk about those guidelines that this booklet was our last advancement in the strategy that has the objective to do a scheme with all of those to make it clear all the steps that you need to do. We came to the communities. There's still communities missing, but with this limited budgeting year to year, we need the help of private sectors, and we're doing capacity building with some offices so they can do those workshops in other places. And finally, talk about our Q&A with that talks about digital autonomy. It doesn't have the impacts of the workshops. It's 9 questions that allows us to know how much help of outsourcing we need to do those actions and do the workshop in next years. And the people that were participating, they would say that they had a lot of autonomy, and they said that they didn't need any help, but that has solved as workshops. And this is a video that shows the experiences of the workshops in 2024, 2025. Can you put on the video, please? I don't think it worked, but in any way, the video can share through the websites and you can have access. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very interesting, the experience of Chile with this vision of an entity that is not technology. You're presenting in something that is not about technology, but it's in line with the other entities. And now we're gonna hear the experience of Gabriela from Peru and this digital governance. Hello, Gabriela. How are you? Are you okay? You can present it now, please. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank for the invitation. Such an important space. It's an honor for me to be here today, and salute you cordially from Peru, from our Secretary of Government and Digital Transformation of Presidency. The presence of the Council of Ministries in Brazil has as a mission to contribute as this modern state, decentralized and with public services of qualities in the citizen, focusing on the citizen. And it's not an optional theme, it's a heart of the public services that is modern and inclusive. Precisely in this framework, we are going to present the alignment of the digital platforms that are accessible to people with disabilities. This elaboration was a joint effort. We had a technical multidisciplinary team with public services. We have this preliminary action in which we had the citizenship in this process of public consult, where we had online meetings, and we saw that we have 480 people with disabilities and the actions that represent them as well. Their voice and experience were fundamental to enrich and solidify the content of this alignment. Finally, 24th of July of this year, after 11 months of collaborative work, we could unite in a transcendent way with this official approval of this alignment. But what establishes this alignment? Dispositions that are mandatory for the public entities to develop services of accessible digital platforms with the guidelines of the app of the version 2.2, which is the most recent one, and future versions as well. These are the most recognized and followed subjects, and it asked by international level when it comes to sensibility, digital sensibility. But why revolutionary? Here in Peru, not only regulate the accessibility subjects, but also the alignment include the integration of the Peru, in which we have the passwords, and this alignment would include the according to each territory and the material of support, and we have recommendations of designation of a coordinator of accessibility in each public entity with the means of a focus point for the coordinations, technical issues, implementations on follow-up for this alignment, compliance. So what are the main benefits of this alignment that can give the citizenships with disabilities? And firstly, we'll give an access to the clear information and adaptable information. The accessibility benefits are criteria with legible text, adequate, and options to increase the font of the text, and all the content of video and audio would have subtitles and audio description, and also the sign language from the Peru. Inside of the benefits of the citizens with some kind of disability, there's also simple navigation in which we establish inside of the subject the criteria that they can see the content without depending from mouse and being on the menu or the descriptive links and etc. And now it's been established a formula for the public entities to prioritize the services that are going to implement the accessibility digitally. So in this alignment, to be implemented with the accessibility would have preference in this when it comes to health, education, justice, social benefits, and others. And inside of this element, we had this prioritization and also the formula to determine what are the services that are more utilized by the citizens when it comes to services that attend to the public, and also the services and digital platforms will have this material that will help tutorials, descriptive audio, with the finality of guiding those users to utilize those public services. Now, what are the obligations that we've been establishing for the public entities to be able to adopt this kind of alignment? Firstly, the first option would be those subjects of accessibility. 2.2 with alignment that we've been establishing with this updated subjects that we have on the third version. We have a draft, and this alignment will also get those updated issues. And the finality is that the public digital services in the level WA until level 3, we know that the levels are approaching in a critical way with people with the disabilities, and in the level A as well, in the triple level as well, we're going to have some requirements that are bigger and directed especially to users with a lot of different disabilities. And also public entities, as has been saying, that have to utilize a way that we use under the alignment so they can identify what are the public services that are going to be prioritized to implement the digital accessibility based in the volume of visitations that receive those public services and the impact that they have to the service for the citizens. Also mentioned, and this is going to be an obligation when it comes to public entities, to follow up the services and digital platforms with an accessible material with the sign language from Peru. In this way, we can approach a way that the information will get to the communities. Also, we've been establishing an alignment in which the public entities will count with a special team, those people that are making content, that they have this technical team to apply those dispositions of alignment. Since the Secretariat of Government and Digital Transformation of the Presidency, we have the hall of having this technical assistance and follow-up and capacity building when it comes to material of digital accessibility. And we also have a national policy of digital transformation in 2030, in which we establish as a priority to guarantee this inclusive and safe access on the digital platforms for everyone. This is the objective throughout a service that has been called Accessible Digital Seal, in which we want to recognize all the public entities that are at the citizens' disposal and digital platforms that are accessible. This seal has this manual application. In October of this year, we are going to launch the 2025 edition with the accessibility seal and consolidate a culture of accessibility in the country. Our goal is that in 2030 at least, 60% of the services or digital platforms of Peru will be accessible, contributing with the reduction of barriers that will stop people from, with or without disabilities, to exert that digital citizenship. With this commitment, we reaffirm our condition of the digital accessibility will guarantee a transformation in the state. Well, I thank you honestly for your attention and letting us share this experience. And I hope that this space is also an opportunity to contribute together to this digital future that is more inclusive. Thank you very much. Very interesting, the initiative of Peru, very recent. And talk about the questions. I don't know if we have a video for that. We're going to follow up with a debate. There were some questions here. The question in the order of presentation, Fernanda. The question that we had throughout YouTube, the Wellbeing Institute of Brazil, there were this framework that have the initiatives on the social and community connectivity in communities that are more vulnerable. I think a great question. Yes, we've been having this alignment of which politics are involved in the countries when it comes to those elements of significant connectivity. And one of the ones that we found that is more interesting that is being applied is including in Chile. We've been working on those community networks, and it's interesting to see the advancements that we had getting to those zones that still don't have coverage. But considering other elements that come from this law that Javiera has mentioned in the presentation, I would say in this case that our experience in this sense from Chile and those community networks is a very strong experience, and to have those digital inclusion and attend to those localities where the vulnerable people are. Martina, there's a question for you. Also, the same institute that came from YouTube. In your research of BD, the access of technology, mobile and fixed, it was this franchise of the broadband and the franchise of the fixed broadband. And if you could have those indicators that show the limitations from the access to those digital services, what is the impact mainly in Brazil, this prepaid services of franchise of data? If you could see that in the research of BD, or if you're analyzing this research more regional of the Latin America, and what is the impact that this would have? Thank you for the question. I think it's very important. And because I've emphasized the usage of a mobile phone is the access to the device, but in the question we've asked, in the research we've asked about the mobile data package, and we have a data that a little bit more than a third, I don't know the data in my head, but 36%, I think, more or less, is in the published research of the population. They depend on the mobile internet for access to internet, and affirmed that this package of data has finished at least once in the last 3 years. So this is a very important data to qualify also the type of access to internet, and also deepen, in fact, of using that data daily doesn't mean that they're not having difficulties on the quality of this internet and this economical accessibility of that internet. And we have a little bit more of this data in the written study and the publication from Brazil and regionally. And we have some questions about fixed internet and how slow it is at home. And we'll bring data that more than half of the population has suffered with the slow internet at least once in the last 3 years at home. Thank you, Martina. Those data of the research, we're going to see the data of research, and it's very interesting for us to understand the reasons why people don't access and why not move. Maybe it's not the device, but the plan that the person is using that gives this limitation, right? Javiera, there's a question for you that is very interesting. we in the digital inclusion, we have multi-sectoral issues, and it's a difficulty in Brazil. We've been evolving in this in Brazil, but there are a lot of actions of digital inclusion, health, elderly, vulnerable, and this experience of three entities to develop this elderly issue. And like, if there was any difficulty in Chile, was it more natural? A lot of public organizations and the differences of the workshops in the urban area, rural area, and the cities. In a way, have you previously identified this, seen this workshop or what is going to be taught there in that place before they go there and know what is the interest of the elderly in that? Thank you for the question. When it comes to this organization that we had with three different agencies of Subitel, Sumanajigovi, it was very simple because we were all very aligned in prioritizing this group with this goal that is very specific and be able to having actions that are integrated and not only approaching a cut out of the society, but understanding the whole and all the obstacles that one way or another there were barriers for the elderly to use internet, not only in a superficial way, but also as a tool for this elderly people. But this, when we sign this in the next month, is going to contemplate other organs of the state that are not sensitized with this elderly people. In this case, certainly there are few who have this hard work of having assistance of this subject in the specific. That's what I put the ageism that is real, the ageism, the discrimination of age. I have a little bit of ageism when it comes to that, and it will generate a situation that we're not capable of visualizing the opportunities, the problems.
For all of the population that our services in our country, it's one quarter of the population. We have to do a work of talking since to help, and then through that, how can we do better for people have feel digital inclusion that is inclusive. This work that we are doing at the state level of digital transformation that effectively the instruments that we have, that is 9 from 10, to be adapted to that we can understand people from different ages, elderly. And this is the biggest challenges that we have on how to include our other institutions and the other questions like common art workshops, this process of these workshops we created that from certain variables we coordinated the other 340 people for groups. How can we do that with the budgets that we have? And we contact the communities of the services of the elderly people. They have to have the commitment that in fact we help us to get to the elderly people who have some kind of profile and prioritize the elderly woman that they have that they should be the first ones. Then we cannot of course we cannot approach all of them together. We want to work with small groups that can make easier for them and for us, that help This workshop sometimes helps in the same municipalities, in the same community, and the guarantee that they have the internet and work together. So this is an invitation that we pass with a lot of joy with the elderly people, and we are advancing in a few steps at a time. But maybe in the future we can get to all of the community of with this digital inclusion. Thank you for your answering. Recently, you launched this accessibilities program. What is the most difficult that we have to the goal that you have for the 30? How can you prevent that, and how can you have that happen this or make these websites more accessible for all of the society? Thank you for the question. It's gonna be a challenge for all of them. The implementation of this agenda of accessibility in the public services, this public entities doesn't know the technical name for the implementation. It makes the secretary not that important that help this in the personality services through coordinators that I mentioned before, or the public entities, and through these coordinators and these entities, the technical team can create this implementation, and they have to strengthen their capacities and capability and the development of this content and the services of digital platform. The first challenge is to strengthen the capacity of the public entities and essentially start the implementation of the most important services that with the people with special needs. The next challenge that we may have is the implementation of the languages and the original people and indigenous in the public service, because not much of them can count with them. So it's a challenge. It's that we can count with this kind of professionals and include some accessible material, and it's going to be fundamental. The fact that they receive this information and and training, that is one of the strategies that we want to do. And the accessible seal to recognize these public entities that are implementing this and their services. And with this acknowledgement, most of the entities are trying to adopt of this, to have this stamp of accessibility, and some things that has been established these years. Of course, we're gonna improve our basis in this stamp of accessibility to improve and increase this on the public services. Thank you very much. I believe that the challenge is here. It's evolving our thoughts of public services. We see here in Brazil and other experiences of other countries of the connectivity and the infrastructure. And I believe that yesterday we saw a research, and now we have a research of Cepal, and Christiana is going to show another research. We have a lot of data right now. We have capacity. We have AI today, and I believe it's a challenges as a citizens, and not only the state and private companies and civil society. We have to think how to use all of this, the research and all of these data that the public service can attend all of the society, but we have to think in this vulnerable community, elderly, people with special needs, people from the rural area. We have tools that together we can attend these groups, not only them but also them, and the inequality of the digital area can only decrease this. I'm gonna ask the round of applause for the Martina, Gabriela, Fernando, Javiera. Thank you all. We thank the presence of all of the participation in this fourth panel that was moderated by Paulo Cisnando. I can find music, a lot of things, and my well, I can talk with my families in the WhatsApp. I have 84 years. I didn't know anything. I look all of this in a superficial way, but now we couldn't ask anyone, and we the we can ask when we have access to all of the services. We don't need all just for our family and the neighbors. I can do that with one finger on my cell phone. When the elderly are included in the digital society, reduce the gaps, open more opportunities, and generate more rights, and we live with more autonomy through the digital inclusion of the elderly. Government of Chile, Chile advance with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gonna go on with the program of the 50 panel actions and plans of the federal government. We like to inform you that you can we're gonna have a Q&A part, and you can do it later. Those ones from YouTube, the questions can be done by the chat. At by the end of each panel, we're gonna send those questions to the moderator. For the 50 panel, we invited the head of the audit of the and the moderator, Alexandre Giraud. The superintendent of client relations of the National Agency of Telecommunications, Anatel, Cristiane Camarade. The general director of research, Lisandro Zebenedit. The president of the agro research, Silvia Mazurra. The management of maintenance and infrastructure, uh, Rodrigo Botelho Machado. And the general coordinator of dissemination and data integrations and information in health by the Ministry of Health, Thiago Bahia Fontana. Now the floor, the moderator Alexandre Diho, that from this moment we're gonna moderate the panel and the debate. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a topic that is very interesting. And now the proposal of this panel is for us to see the digital inclusion by different perspectives. And I believe that when we talk about digital inclusion, we also talk about social inclusion. I am head audit from the Minister of Health, and it's a pity that we have just a few minutes, only 12 minutes for each one of us, as we are close to the lunchtime. We should keep our on time. I'll ask for the effort to do that. I'm gonna cover for the first participant. I'm gonna see here. We can start with. Can we start with you, Sylvia? Okay, Mr. Silvia, that is president of the Brasilia company of the Agro Research Embrapa, which she has a doctor degree in computing, 34 25 years in research and development on the agro area. Through the 15 years, she highlighted with the management, especially on the unit dedicated of the digital agriculture. Can I stand to talk? Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank on behalf on your name for the participation to be here. Is an honor to be here. As I only have 12 minutes, I'm going to be direct. The project that we have here from BAPA is digital CMA is a proposal for inclusion of the small farmer. We don't know. We have 5 million producers in Brazil. The Embrapa, the researchers that is connected to the Minister of Agriculture and Livestock. We have we now have 54 years. 50 years ago, we wanted to guarantee our food safety. At the time, Brazil import everything. So it's first of all, we'd like to guarantee our food security. And by the diversity of climate and lands, we try to adaptate the matters of the climate of our reality in our six biomes, and we started to be a huge producer and export to all over the world. We're recognized by the reference of tropical agriculture all over the world, and from these 5 million people, only 20% are the big producers, that the ones that export. We have a huge challenge, and very important to work with the social productive inclusion in digital for the small and the medium and small farmer. It involves a lot of actors that we discuss with MCTI, Minister of the Agriculture and Livestock. Embrapa have 43 centers of all over the country. We work through A and through Z, literally to every place. We have centers of researchers and of soil, Londrina, Embrapa, and Belém, with other researchers. Would have the Pantanal part, and with this diversity of products and topics, we discuss how can we use this moment. Uh, that exists since the pandemic. There was a more we have to use more the technologies, and when we decrease the gap that we have from the medium and a small farmer. So how can we increase the productive in our country? You know that from data by FAO, we have a demand to increase the production of food in 7%, and we expect that 50% is from Brazil. That's why all of the countries they have their eye on us, because we have public policies to do that. We have 600 million of 40 million people have a degradation level that we can use to recover, and we have increased our productivity, and Brazil has this on it. And how can we bring the small and medium farmer to do this, to insert them in this process, that they have in capability of investments? We need public policies to improve that, and how to use the new technologies to help decrease this gap. And these projects involved a lot of institutions. In BAPRA is the ones that coordinated, seeing how can we use the technology of information to add value, improve the productions of the small and medium farmer. We have the CPQD with us, and Institute of Agricultural Economy, and we have a lot of partners that we can develop this. And just for you to understand, we have three main goals that the training in literacy, digital literacy, and how can, so the proposal is to have 10 pilots in Brazil. Working with this 10, we have the didactics, that is the first item, that is agro-technological part. We work with the producer association, small cooperatives, increasing, and we have the, and also the training, and through that we see, to attempt all of these demands, how the new technologies of AI, remote sensoring, traceability, thinking about blockchain, how can we use these new technologies to add value and improve the productions through the 10 data that we have all over the country. We have 5 in the state of São Paulo because it started in FAPESP, and we have the all of five other 5 in all other parts of the country. But we have demanded to increase this number because we have demands all over the country. We have a lot of diversity of productions. We have projects on the grains, the coffee, fruits. We were commenting that is from Bahia, that we have the fruits from the south from the same area part of the country. We are producers of grapes, mango, and we export that acai in the north of the country. All of this is technologies by the agro and that we develop it. And how can we use these new technologies to improve these productions? And
Just so you have an idea of those 10 pilots, so for example, we have Sao Paulo, the sugarcane, the study of uh, milk, and it's a very big diversity. In Pará, acai, honey, and we have the pilot with coffee. And the line in which we're discussing this, the producers of Caconchi, they had this association when we started to have these demands. They would put, oh, we first need a machine for the producers and more energy. And then we're going to have this, we need connectivity. So they have things that the digital will come from the social and economical framework, and it's a small cooperative. So this is the work that we've been doing. And just to go forward a little bit, these are some examples. São Miguel Arcanjo that's been working with this connectivity. What are the challenges? And today in the rural area, we have 25% of connectivity, and I'm seeing the partners of Anatel, Celebras, RP, and we need to join the forces to take connectivity in the field, because today is still not enough and doing this work. And so that you have an idea, we have a roadmap, and we started using the AI techniques and visual techniques to increase productivity, identify diseases. Today, we already use that in the fields, and the animals we get captured any. Images with different resolutions from satellite and drone, so we can estimate the biomass and the point of nutrition of the cattle, for instance, so you can see a good level of, extermination, and seeing this roadmap to get in these virtual gems that we have in the industry. Using these new technologies, for instance, is something that we've been developing there. And the remote accessory we can use as monitoring and coverage. This is a classical example of the identification of species in forests. Using drones, we can reduce and have an inventory of 90% that has been done manually. There's some examples that we're using as how the technology can help to monitor the usage and coverage of the land. And today in Brazil, there's this difference in Brazil with those integrated systems and forests and so on, and we can do the calculus of carbon. We talk a lot about of sustainable agriculture, and we need data and information for these new technologies. So today we utilize this a lot, this remote accessory. This is another example, so you can also estimate the productivity with apples. We have this robot that we can estimate using artificial intelligence as well. And this part was this manual uh, picking, and this is we're validating this in the camp. The certification is also very important. We talk about sustainability. So this is traceability. We need to have this. Not only the international market, the consumers are so much more worried about nutrition, health, the origin of the food. And today is discussed in the agriculture is more functional model. It needs to worry about nutrition, the where the food is coming from and traceability. So we have these new technologies that we've been developing. These are some partners that we have in Brazil participating in this discussion and supporting with this institutional support and negotiation. Those are partners that are working with us in this project. These are some of the notes of communication that brought some other opportunities for Brazil. These are some numbers. We have 7 institutions, 90, 90 researchers, and 13 units of Embrapa are involved actively. And then publications, papers. But I also wanted to bring you that today Embrapa has the Processur, which are the research institutes Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, beyond Brazil. So today, since last year, I'm the president of Processur as well. When I took the presidency of Embrapa, and we brought this experience from Brazil, and it's been implanted. One pilot in each country of Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina. So yesterday we had the launching of this data with all the institutions, UMIAC, Chile, Uruguay, and EPT of Paraguay. This is it. 25 seconds spare. Is a general idea for you to have of a project at Embrapa. This project, we have this project of Embrapa of artificial intelligence in fields. For the fields, for the farming, and for the farming we have this digital project where we use the data and information from Embrapa to take the communication in a more agile way and try to help the technology to get there. And we have on the farming and fields those public policies and data information, and a lot of public policies that we have the roles security our data from Embrapa, but we do it in more digital well. So analogical today, this is a model that we wouldn't have time to present, but just to briefly talk about. Thank you very much. I think at the end we're going to have a while to debate, and thank you, Sylvia. Very interesting. Just a brief comment. I act in the area of public policies. I am the chief audit on and I am very happy to see this experience with a pilot test previously, as promising as it is to adjust this model, and it has such a potential to spread throughout the country. Let's go through Dr. Cristiana Camarotti. She's in the relations with the consumers of the National Agencies of Telecommunications and coordinator of the Brazilian Commission of Communication and Development of Telecommunications 2024-2025. She's the consulting of agency. She's a lawyer in the Center of University of Brasilia and the University of Alcalá, and she's a lawyer in the career of telecommunications since 2007. You have the floor, Christina. Good morning to my colleagues and all that are watching us and that came to discuss this theme that is very expensive. Thank you, Policies Nanda, for the invitation. It's very expensive for Anatel, which is the significant connectivity. I'm going to do a link of the previous panel with this one. Anatel is the National Agency of Telecommunications. Our mission has always been the inclusion. 28 years, the inclusion was to guarantee public phones and fixed phones. You're laughing because you know that this was to be like that. And the necessity of inclusion today is absolutely different. The technological advancement has allowed us to talk about this very calmly, and most part of the population already has access to a cell phone, and this is real. Are almost 300 million cell phones and access to cell phones, but more cell phones than people. This is the reality of our country, with a lot of challenges, as you have mentioned, in the rural areas and remote areas. But in fact, concrete, we have 90 people connected, 10% still needs to connect with the big projects that are ongoing in Anatel. And we hope to diminish until 2030 this quantity in the population. The North region has been a target of ours. I'm not going to say that about infrastructure, so we can focus in the point of view of the significant connectivity that we talked a lot about in the other panel. It's not only the access of infrastructure. The data, it says that 20% of the Brazilian population has the possibility to connect, but they don't connect. And when you ask why, they say, I don't know what's the use of it, I don't have interest. And the third item is price. So this means that we have a big challenge on the promotion of the digital skills. And this is also a mission of Anatel, which is the regulated agency when it comes to the digital transformation of this country. We had examples from and those provocations that I accept, and we're going to advance. And there will be others. Telemedicine. Anatel also has this project, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And telemedicine. Yes, yes, this side. And so many others that show how Anatel has been following up with this significant connectivity, focusing on digital skills and talking about actions. I'm going to talk about a potpourri because Alexander only gave me 2 minutes. And just a potpourri of actions. A lot of fronts, big fronts, studies, diagnosis, and secondly, actions. Who knows me knows that there's no possibility of only talking about action and concrete results. And third, transparency of what we're doing evidently. Very quickly about the first pillar when it comes studies. Paulo has said that I was going to talk about it. I'm going to share with you. In Anatel, we has been profounding their digital skills, understanding better the diagnosis. We need to act and be assertive. So we've been publishing 3 studies. The first one, very related to the comparative of Brazil with the rest of the world. And the second, looking to Brazil and the diversities, regional diversities of vulnerable groups and age and income. And we've launched on the 1st of September another study about connectivity that is significant, and we've looked at the 3 different parts, and we've had the data of CETIC, and we had the intention of doing a study that is complementary, not more of the same, and try to deepen the issues related to equipment and skills as a whole when it comes to digital ability skills. And this study, I'd like to do a few highlights for you. All of those studies are in the website of Anatel, considering the third pillar of transparency, giving knowledge. They are there. And you need to know that in reality, those studies are in a way always complementing each other, not only ours, but the ones that were presented here too in the previous panels. The most important access in Brazil is through mobile phones. This is the reality of all the studies. In any action, any policies, being institutions, public institutions or private institutions, needs to consider this reality. In a lot of the cases, in the cases of the population, vulnerable populations, low income, the cell phone a lot of the times is the only device that they have, especially in the population of a minimum salary. And this is what we've explained on the 1st of September, done in partnership with IDEC, which is an organization of the civil society, very well recognized by us Brazilians. We've done this work, that very extensive work with very small areas, 5%, and 95% of assertiveness, and represents the whole of Brazil in this. And we focused on the low income population till minimum salary to 1 to 3 and 3 above minimum salary. So all this data is very focused on improving the promotion of digital skills, and see how we're going to deepen in that subject. 50% of people until one minimum salary will declare that they have these mobile devices with value lower than 1,000 reais. That means that the device has less capacity, and it needs to look at this as well. The functionalities. The good news is that regardless of the income, 50% of Brazilian population says that they changed their cell phones in until 2 years. It's not my case, but most of Brazilian population, and regardless of the income. And when we're going to understand why don't we have computers at home, most part is going to say that they don't have because of the cost. And the cost is something that really we need to think about. And the number of cell phones and equipments, notebooks and computers has been dropping throughout the worldwide data. And this is something very relevant, considering that we know that for a lot of services, especially related to education, we don't have a representative from VACTI, but for education, there is a computer or a bigger screen device is very relevant. So how we as public policies and can improve the situation. So we leave this highlight, and there are so many others, but I invite you to research and TCU to talk about this research itself, to invite me again to talk about this research, and I'm going to detail it. I'm going to have a PowerPoint and present the slides, because this is very relevant for everyone who is here today. And I'd like to take advantage of my last 3 minutes to briefly talk about another pillar of other concrete actions that Anatel has been doing. Studies are actions, obviously, but starting from the studies, what are we doing? And I'd like to tell you, since last year we have an agreement with UNESCO, and this agreement with UNESCO is to promote the digital skills of 2 different vulnerable groups, the elderly and the children, because all those extremities of our society. Remember that I said 20% says that they don't use it, internet even having access. Considering that children are not being researched, there was this intuition, a perception, starting from the data that we had, that probably the elderly would be with lack of confidence, a population that were not being included, but it needs for the bank, for the digital services and all that. So then we are now in this week, last week and this week, and then next week, we're going to finalize it doing a workshop on the 5 regions of the country. Are 7 workshops in 5 different regions of the country to do a diagnosis, profound diagnosis of the Brazilian reality and the necessities of the elderly. How did have we done that? We've opened subscription. 100 institutions related to technology and elderly have subscribed, and we selected 70 institutions, and those 70 institutions with so much diversity we did in Manaus. One of the institutions was from the indigenous people. So there is this regional representativeness of the groups inside of the elderly group. So we have the diagnosis from there, and we've been advancing for children as well.
We have a theater that it was a play that was a winner for the a prize of the Information Summit. It was focal in childhood, that is life of influence. We have a pilot last year, more than 600 children from public school, and most of them never been to the theater before. They went to the Anatel theater and had this experience with some learnings about the digital world, worries about cyberbullying and how to protect themselves. This was a winner of a world competition and was awarded by uh, one for the telecommunication prices, and we're going to spend it to all over the country. We have other actions, but I don't have more time. What I wanted to highlight is that Anatel has been in the last 3 years as a hub. Not non-institution can make the promotion of the digital abilities alone. Anatel has the know-how, the capability, but we need partners, and we have a lot of partners of the civil society and institutions. So CEPAL, we participate with a group of CEPAL. Our colleague Javiera talked about a project of the elderly in Chile with the people of Subtel that is the same as it is the quality of Anatel in Chile. I have the contact of Rafael in that area. So even national or international, Rafael is the subsecretary of Subtel. And we have the IBD. We did this the first seminar of a signative seminar 2 years ago with IBD. So we work with partnerships to achieve results and deliver results for Brazil. And that's it, Alexandre. And just a last pillar is transparency. Everything you can find in the website of Anatel. Everything that you have doubt, you can ask us to advance in this debate. Thank you very much. It calls my attention these issues. Let me just conclude the train of thought. How must be challenging for the elderly, and we'll leave the scenario in Brazil of this the age of the population that is more accelerated than the rest of the world. And as I imagine it, just thinking out loud, maybe this 20% who doesn't have the access are related for this group. But you want to complement something, just want to talk about the telemedicine project that we are developing at CETEL. CETEL is the arm of the OEA, and we are doing this pilot in Brazil in the Amazon area of telemedicine. And I cannot reveal our partner, but this is a partner from the civil society that wants to finance this project that we are doing, and is gonna be disruptive, this project. So there is a lot of fronts, a lot of actions, and that's it. Everyone who has new ideas and want to go after Anatel, we are available for you. I believe that you have is a lot of responsibility to have a lot of partners because there is a lot of topics. I'm gonna pass the floor now to Lisandro Granville. He's the general director of the of research and that he has a doctorate in computing of the University of Rio Grande do Sul. He has a postdoc of management and network in Holanda. He's a member on the Netherlands, and he's in the Committee of Internet in Brazil, and also a member of the Committee of Technological Information Technological and Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. Be our guest. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you also for my colleagues here on the stage. I'm gonna talk about RNP and especially this program Connecta that is connected. That is the most important program that we have. That the main goal is to take to get the connectivity to the environment of research and this connectivity is not only of the transfer of data but also related out of information security that obviously is very important and other aspects that are very relevant for the society as like AI and new other technologies. Just mention a little bit that RNP is not well known in the society. Is the network of learning technology. RNP was only a project before, that's why we are not that known. Then evolved to be a backbone of the academic international the internet it was born in the environment of academic environment. RNP was the one that bring the internet to Brazil, and then and it was for the whole society. And RNP is the one who has this national backbone connecting the university and center of. And about the connected, the overview have the description is a program of promotion of digital connectivity in all over the territory, and through the structures that we call it infravias and metropolitan networks. Those ones that is networks of computers that connect in a metropolitan in the cities and in complementations infovias are the long ones that connected entities that in the in a large space like the state. These structures complementing the backbone, the national academic backbone. As we say, the name of our backbone is Network IP, and we have two ones. We have a e-science network that is specialized, and that is the traffic of this network. It can have a lot of volumes of data, and this is a network that is from the conventional academic area, and this is from an architecture problem. And we have a lot of data volumes, and they flood the network with these data, and this flood of the networks can get in the way of the national traffic. So we have a different network to have this specific traffic in a way that this specific traffic can flow in appropriate way by the network, that the applications have some specific requirements. At the same time, this traffic don't get in the way of the conventional network. I'm going to talk about later about this e-science network, and the specific main goals is to update the most important network and the connections with the innovation companies and the ICTs that are connected to the institutions. That reflects us in the accelerators, the the things that we can find in the university. We have to build state infovias. They have structures of internet, and they have to be updated all the times. And this represents this and expand this network of e-science that I mentioned before. I'm not going. This is aligned with the strategy of the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, and that impact in two main axes. The first one from recovery, expansion, and consolidation of the national system of science, technology, and innovation. Then the second one, the reindustrialization and new bases and support of innovation in the companies. And the final one is the science, technology, innovation to programs and strategic projects. This is kind of bureaucratic, this, but it's to find the alignment and the support of IMCT and, of course, the financial one, together with all the ministries and the program that we have on the RNT. If you look to this program and how to see they affect the main goals of the development, the sustainable development of ODS, that's where we see the connections on the lines that we have in the connect. I'm not going to go deep in this. It's just for you to have an idea that when we have a connection with the civil society and the ministry, we have these considerations. Now I'm gonna talk about the pillars of the connector. I mentioned before that I have the first time that we have the information highways that from the state that are planned. Some of them were implanted and some of them are. If we look to the general main goals of the program, they are these numbers. They were planned in the first stage to attend 19 states. On 8 of them were concluded into 2026 in the states that we have here. If we look to the numbers of the infovias, we have something like 42,000 kilometers of fibers implanted, being 30,000 of them completed until 2026. That gave me the opportunity to mention the expressions is not that good, but the model of business of our NT, when we send these infovias and create these communications, uh, these digital highways allowed us to work with the operators, and this model made us our infrastructures to the network of security that I'm going to mention later to just be a cheaper one with the collateral effect of this work. That is why it's more economic for the universities, and they have their connectivity through the RNT. So this model, since the beginning of 1989, allowed us to deliver the services in a way that is cheaper for the scientific community. We also have the implementation of 79 digital highways that attend the city networks. They are restricted for the capitals. Even there's big cities in the country like Campinas in São Paulo, but these networks attending these regions in a way that we can add the traffic of the entities of this metropolitan regions. And the last one is obtention of infrastructures in partners with the government and the and companies from the electric sectors. As I mentioned before, it's not only with the market, but also with the finance with the states. We have examples of digital highways that one of the resources are from the ministry, other for the partners, and others from the government of the states. And these digital highways allowed us to have this model. Well, this is to mention the national backbone. It's bigger than this, but we can what is has been showing this for you is the actualization for you from to the of the backbone. I'm not gonna enter to to the numbers because I don't have much time. But the most important slide that I want to show you this is the replication of our map. But by the end, you can if you want to have curiosity, you can access, you see the filters, and you can see a lot of these infrastructures. Now we have here the digital highways from the states, but we can see all of the infrastructure of our and see the filters on the left of the map. About the science network, is in a science network that I said is a parallel one that allows the specialized traffic by the project of researchers. This network is already implemented, and we have been adding to this network other partner institutions that needed the network to operate. These networks are not limited to these engineer areas that should be the most natural one to the computer network, but in fact, there is a lot of different areas of the knowledge. We also have a complement here that we call it national data centers. We've seen the ones that is working that are working here, and this the one in Brasilia, the other in São Paulo, and the ones that we can have machines and equipment from RN, the partners of RNT. And this once again is cheaper because we use the model of they have the cooler system and energy system. And so new university, for examples, they can operate the city bay and the centers. Over here is to talk about the SOC, that our Security Operation Center. It's an element that is traditional in other network of searching like RNT all over the world, developed critical analysis of process through these infrastructures. It's impossible to talk about interconnectivity structure without talking about security, and SOC is the one that allowed us to deliver security to this national backbone. And the main goals are this: to build this digital infrastructure of security and to qualify the people. That is not only we have to, this develop involves capacity training and things like this. We have as a main goal to elevate the maturity of cybersecurity for the knowledge of people and to contribute to the for the with these institutions. The SOX is structured into levels. We have one here that in Brasilia. I invite you all to visit if you want to. It's a interesting infrastructure, but this updating is only to coordinate the activities that we are doing when we have the distributed SOC. Those are infrastructures that is in the institutions, and they have to develop their own capability to achieve the main goals that we mentioned before. I'm gonna go to the most interesting part right now. This is the slide that talks about the connected to. I like to mention this slide because it appears all of the elements that are in the green over here in the image. You can see the science network, the net the digital highways from the between the states is to connect our infrastructure in a way that is more appropriate as international infrastructures. Of course, we're not isolated. We have international connections, but we wanted to update these international connections for those ones who have partners. International partnerships can have it better. And we have the National Center of Data, and we have the visual nodes, and I like to highlight that infrastructure of communication in our days is not they are not only the, the we have security, data storage, process of data, and the last box we have library and models, because we live in the AI area. Without these structures of the connectivity is going to be something that is something innocuous. And above, we have the data of AI and communication interfaces that we can have with these partners institutions. And the main goal is to attend a lot of verticals, not only science and technology that we have over there, because this is what the goal of the first phase, and the ones related to education, culture, agro, and other ones. I'm sorry, I passed 2 minutes of my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alessandro. I'm going to go without any delays to Rodrigo Botero Machado. He is the manager of maintenance of Telebras, responsible for the maintenance of the national network of telecommunications on the centers of operations, special operations. He's a civil engineer by the University of Brasilia with MBA in administration and entrepreneurship strategy with the Navy configuration and maintenance of networks of telecommunications and data centers. He had projects of construction and certifications beyond relevant implementations in Brazil, exterior and government and private sector, with high disposal. And uh, Rodrigo, you have the floor. Good morning. Well, good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to thank the invitation of the Federal Court of Accounts, and also thank the partnership of all the ones that are in the panel, that in moment or another with RP, I've talked each week at Anatel, they're our sister, and in Telebras also we have a lot of we talk a lot with Embrapa. We still have a lot to do. I think Silverman has put and Cristiana has confirmed. Maybe have more demands so we can utilize and have efficiency on our deliverables. Looking, well, thank you. Firstly, quickly, who are we? And we take internet to the whole Brazil. We are in the 27 UFs of Brazil, and we have the demands of the administration in those regions that we have. We've connect schools, public schools, centers of research, hospitals, and I'm going to talk a little bit about of this at the end of my presentation. Showing quickly the infrastructure, the strategical infrastructure of Telebras, we have a composition of a backbone, national backbone, that is this figure on your left. So it's practically more than 30,000 kilometers of network, a lot of them with high disposal and disponibility, and we have NRP as well, and lines of transmission of energy that bring this protection and high disponibility. We have solutions of our terrestrial network, and we integrate them with a satellite network as well. We have a project in partnership inside of this cooperation agreement with the Ministry of Defense, and we've launched the satellites that we have in the screen. And to have all of this high disponibility and do all of this control of the satellites, we have our centers of special operations, Brasilia. I'm gonna get into details and a little bit forward, and we have some gateways in spread throughout Brazil. We have 5, so we can have all the circuit and Banda Ka and Banda Shiz is from the Ministry of Defense, the solutions of data centers. So each stations that we've built that we call this critical infrastructure stations, we have data center for them, and data center that was conceived in this higher disposal and protection of network. In a time, those projects are from 2016-17, we've constructed those centers and those stations from 2018, and then we delivered the last one in 2020. Until this day, effectively it shows that we have to continue our actions, that we're still not 100% operable and taken, let's say, it's not occupied just yet. So we have a lot of demands that effectively we have this post infrastructure that quickly closing up our lines, we can attend very quickly. With this big national backbone, we have stations, pop stations, so practically 400 spread it throughout the country to provide all the services that we attend to and provide the quality of service. Here quickly just showing our numbers. I'm not going to go into details, but you can see through the map effectively the positioning and the occupation of Telebrás in whole country. Our data centers, Tier 4, I'm going to comment a little bit forward about that one. This is the satellite network. It's a satellite that had coverage, the first one that had national coverage. And we can cover and attend to any place of Brazil. So SGDC, we started with that one, and Telebrás is also an integrator of solutions from via satellite. And we have some other necessities and applications in the market that need a better capacitation, and we can, via decree, we've been attending with partners as well of satellite solutions, and this infrastructure composes all the control, which is very important to say because the control of the satellite is done by us with but it's done by Brazil, so the satellite is effectively is Brazilian, and attends to, we have 20,000 points with the satellite in all different natures, health, education, and with the objective with the panel of the seminar, the digital inclusion. This is a means. This infrastructure is a means. And what is the actual deliverable and the objective? I had the opportunity to coordinate the implementation and all the part of projects and the implementation of our spatial operations, and having in view that this is the main one from Brasilia, and I invite all of you to get to know it. I think it's important. It's not only me saying, I think everybody that goes there, a lot of people that are here has gone there, and starting from this visitation of the Federal Court of Accounts, and it was a project, it's a success case of the government. So we've done this project in due time, and with I put 0.39 of adjectives and 38 state projects with a reduced team. So we were able to do that. And when you have this accreditation of CR4, is an accreditation recognized internationally that understands what is vanguard, what it was more forward in the world, would say, and high disponibility, security, and the project by itself has this agreement with all the centers, and all the localities are inside of the military bases, and you have this first level of security of the projects, of the professions, and this is true, we think, every day. Since the phase of implementation to this day, we didn't have any vandalism or theft. So this shows that the infrastructure is safe. And not beyond that, we have all the redundant systems and the issues of connectivity. So we have those redundancies when it comes to connectivity and 3 optical approaches, and we have redundancies in energy as well. So from there, we operate and control our satellites above. This center, if you trace it on a straight line, it doesn't get there. So this is what I say. We have this center being operated since 2020. So all of this infrastructure, we've received a lot of visits and commerce visits and strategic visits and political visits of foreigners, and people say that it's a very positive. Their reaction is one of the best in the world, let's say. By this positive side, we have that, but from another side, people say, I've never heard of this. Since it's a project from the government, and few people say, I knew about this, you know? So maybe because of that, the expectations is a little bit more amplified because it's a very big surprise for everybody who visits. So what I'd like to come to in relation to this union of forces, for we can utilize an infrastructure, an investment that has already been done, an investment that is a good of the state, so we can unite forces and be able to optimize our actions and our deliverables, and mainly take benefits of the citizen, which is our goal. And this activity is in a case. This case has been accompanied by the Federal Court of Accounts. Since the phase of a project, it wasn't only the federal accounts, which is TCU, that was on the whole of this, but we've been following up some recommendations. Any process will come through us, and effectively we've built, we've delivered, and the Minister Augusto Mas has gone there with the technical team of TCU, and we had an agreement saying that we didn't have anything that was lacking. So I would like to thank the support and this recognition of TCU, which is the Federal Court of Accounts, and this is our deliverable, some figures. Everything that I've talked about, our strategy, will effectively bring to the citizen. So we have almost 20 points. And when I talk about points, is our terminals to try to attend the final public. Being 19,000, some of them are in schools, 11.2 are in schools. And we provide the connectivity for all the agencies of the INSS, the National Security Income Taxes, and which means 31.5 million retirees being attended, and going to the health area, 1,192 attended by our solutions of connectivity. 327 points of communitary associations, 189 of digital inclusion with the quilombolas and rural communities that goes inside this forum, and religious institutions, posts of borders, and we also have the calamities, all of the issues of public calamities and emergencies since 2018, when we started with the satellite solutions, mainly with the entry of our satellites in operations. Why? Because the emergencies and public calamities needs to be done quickly, and fiber is not going to be able to do that. So we have mobile satellite solutions and fixed points initially in this infrastructure that still exists. And so this infrastructure, energy, conditions of you to have access to this is very hard. So in the floods of Rio Grande do Sul, we didn't even have where to put an antenna. So we went and worked with more than thousands of mobile services. We had this solution helping these people in this situation. So whoever lost their communications, and it's a noble activity. I think we that worked in there, it's important to see where we can attend and the results that we can deliver with all of this. The crisis of Yanomami, we put 17 stations and we still have some there, mobile stations to try and attend that public. So I think this is it. I think this is important. I'm going to conclude, but just to leave that issue in which we have to talk about, we have this infrastructure that we can optimize our subjects. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alexandre. I'll directly pass for our last panelist, Thiago Barrios Fontana. He will integrate the sciences and technology as the general coordinator of dissemination and integration of data and information in health. He's graduated in psychology and mental health, collective mental health on the Rui Barbosa, and has a master's degrees in community health. He has experience in the public health and collective health in administration of public policies and digital platforms of learning, innovation in health, and dissemination of strategic information in health. Thank you, Alexandre. Good morning, good afternoon. Is everything okay? We have the custom to say that it's only good afternoon after we have lunch. So subjectively, we are in the morning. Firstly, I'd like to thank for the opportunity to be with you here and feel all the effort of the sector, governmental sector, to create public policies so everybody in Brazil have a better life. I think at the end of the day, we find ourselves in this mission to promote more balance, more social justice, because the inequalities in Brazil, they are very high, and we try to attack the gaps of quality and access of all the public services. In the health area, we had a commitment 35 years ago. The chain of universities had their birthday the other day, and trying to do the public policies, they try to reach their goals. When we talk about health, I think with Anatel, we don't have contact beyond of the process of innovation that is very supported by Anatel. When Rodrigo Narciso teaches us to do these innovations in the public services and try to create, I just send you a hug. And in the Secretary of Digital Information with Stella Dadi, that couldn't be here. It would be more balanced if she was here today. But it's very interesting. This is the first time that we have this commission of Partiti outside of Brasilia and the north region in Pará, thinking about COP30. Everybody who's involved in this, in the health area, has this very big issue with the north region. We saw big challenges when it comes to environment, and we are very related to this subject. And I'd like to thank TCU, Federal Court of Accounts, to be this way and finding their best version. I think it really mobilizes us for what is important. We talked about this earlier. I'd like to share some subjects that is very important to us. The Ministry of Health in 2023 took this important decision to take the strategic lane. We had policies that were supported what we call that they wouldn't have this strategic area that would give importance to the subject in this moment, that telehealth has two different sides. A very healthy one that has more access, and the other one is the too much usage of technology that has damages to other people's lives. So we saw the paradox of the technology helping and not helping from another side. So our big mission is to promote and protect and recover health. So when you talk about the inadequate use of health being from children, elderly, or other people who depend or become dependent on technology, we have the commitment to take care. So in the health area, we think about that. So we have this paradox of the inclusion of digital means in health, and how can we integrate health and technologies. There's this physical dimensions of the conditions for the services to exist, and the metaphysical one, and how we use what is this at our disposal. This is very significant, the usage of that, and we can see that, and it's valid to talk about that always. We are new unity, and we provoke a big movement. In 2023, we had this big connection with our institutional partners and the H, WHO, and is in our history, and it brought us this challenge of protagonism when it comes to digital health. And Brazil, as we know, is the only one that has a unity that is institutionalized with telehealth. And we mobilize the health agenda because SUS is what it is. And if we show this data as you've shown, we always impress. And they're served to ask us how can we apply $100,000 at the end of the month. So we have those services to understand how we process billions of registry throughout the year. So everything we do has this diverse and huge dimension, and we have differences in our region, but this health has been the protagonism of the movement. And the Ministry of Health, when we tried to attack historical problems, was the time of wait in procedures, medical procedures, as you see in the specialists. And I was very happy to see a message from the Uber talking about, oh, there's specialists now. We have movements of social communications that are impacting for people in other ways. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So CDG is departments that already existed, and its mission is to coordinate the digital transformation on SUS, the integrated system of health. And if we can do that, we can impact in two very important aspects, which is the access and quality of health. Here we have some information about digital programs.
We started a huge movement that was discussed with the sub-national entities because they have a tripartite organization with the states and municipalities to define what is going to be this agenda. In 2024, this program came with great results. We have 27 states that are working with these public policies of the digital health. We are talking about information, models of information, computers, and people ask why the condition is necessary, because it's to continue. It's basically to have this figure of this lady with a lot of kids with the past with some papers, because of they are with a lot of things and they don't deliver the necessary information, organize the information. So when I talk about to this, it's to allow the precise information. This is one of our biggest acts that I'm going to talk about it. That is our national network of data. Is an effort and a strategic action to organize and give a better use for legacies that we have, that is of we have decades of data that we have, and this allows a lot of actions that are great. As Alexandre said before, for a long time, so that allowed us to organize microdata of people, allowed to understand the situation of a territory, and make that the history of health of a person and a community be well understand. And so the national network that we have, it's our space to circulate information, including receiving data of the private sector. So today, when you go to a lab and take a shot of a vaccine, they have the results of the information with the number of lot and a lot of useful informations. Through the years, this one of the because of this network, we can deliver data of a person that is responsible for the vaccine to say how much they have of vaccines. And this is in the public institutions. Okay, as we have a national vision of the cover of the vaccines in our country in 2023, we have the delivery in our country was what the delivering the data of the reality, but as we are in each one of the regions, we did that in the 2023. The minister Lisa in a a press meeting that we talked about the cover of the vaccines and delivering to the society the data for them to see, and this is the important thing, and see what is the truth about the data of the vaccines. When we pass this information, that this is one of the strong positions when deliver the data to the society, the truth is out there, so we can debate with this. With is a serious topic, so we have some topics that are related to the this network that are NDS. We have specialists in the data of regulations. We have now in the national network, and we are building it together with the secretaries and a support with CEDID with the data of regulations and the productions of this very important programs that we have. Over here, we need a fragmented model. We have a number of informations, and for a long time, we've heard the, the system. And in Brazil cannot this because we are huge and we have a huge dimension. So a program like RNDS, it's very useful. The main goal is to use the data and integrated them, and we can do that with this data that we have some fields of information that allows the vinculations that we can have this through these vinculations and understand this data. It's remembering that this week history landmark happens with the network, the CPF, our register number is the only number that we have now to identify ourselves. I can see this in our program. They have they are a bridge to with the society that is working and allowing more access and inputs and service with this the dignity virtual program that we have been discussing since last year, and supporting the conditions of the women all over the country. The this program, it has benefits through these messages, and when they have surgery, they receive an information in the cell phone. Today through the WhatsApp, we have experiments to achieve the my SUS digital as the same number at the WhatsApp, and the idea is that we evolve through this way, and to the different ways to reach the citizens with these informations. Our main challenge is to transform data and information. We've been working a lot to do that in very different way. So we articulate initiatives and technological platforms to promote that in an internal environment and the external ones too, and understand the reality of the policy. So we have a work that is invisible, the most of the people doesn't know, and what is visible, we are trying to increase these proportions in a lot of ways. For an example, on a platform tabnet that is the one that we use the most of the data of the and the municipalities in the states. We invested in this huge commitment to amplify the scope of the topics as the also the amount of groups to be delivered to the population, and adopting everything that we have to do, the references of our institutions, the gov BRs from the Brazil, for the federal governments, and we have other institutions that they have platforms with the focus of geospaces data, and they're one of articulation with the support that deliver information about the most important public policies. And one example, so I can get together analysis. One way we have an kind of information, in the other one we have other information, and put it together we have a whole kind of information. So we have to do more programs like this, and it's one of the most in recently information that we are investments that we are part. That is the AI program. I'm gonna leave this material for you. And we have projects that attack problems of management that are very important, like the database that we use in 2023. That we created these mechanisms of perception. Where are the problems when we have some atypical actions? We can identify this through AI. It is in the developed program. It takes a lot of work, but I hope it works. And to identify other problems as well. And the other one is about the legal demands, and to have the informations from the process to make easier the understanding of the biggest topic of the judicial branch that we have. We have dozens and millions of digital process of the Ministry of Health, and we have to understand how to identify the ones that have to need the attention and the ones that we can work in other ways. And so is a way to show that we have how to produce technologies for people have more access to the health services and improvement of the public management. I'm gonna pass a little bit over here. I'd like to talk about two more topics. One of that was supported by our NP. We have the support of to do that. We have been looking to the territories that we have emptiness of, and with the digital highways we help it to do that. And we have the health of our national program. They receive resources to think about the specific populations, and being and we have it. We now have in this environment of to for people to learn how to use the services. Something that is also very important in this layer of culture is our program that we call it digital transformation. That is from the pets health that we have. I would like to show you the number of the pets respecting our time. The pet saúde was the pet health was started with the proposition of all of the states, and this process contemplates all the projects of all the states, making that we have a movement of information for us to have dialogue with the community. So the pet health, we have like informations. At the same time, we have a way to movement the community so they can get in the topic of health, and working with a lot of disciplines like collective health, data science, and things that are new even for the teachers. So we have 91 projects that all over Brazil. We have 730 groups to do that, and we think about the citizens. And besides that, we have an international collaboration agenda that or BRICS or G20 or Mercosul recently, and the support of HWO. And if you want to talk to us, my email is on the slide, and we accept invitations and other initiatives that you may pass through us. Thank you very much. uh, Now, because of the time, I'm gonna direct to each one of you made your final considerations. The colleague that sent the message and questions through YouTube, but I I I gave to them. If you can contemplate in the way that you can, 1 or 2 minutes tops for us to conclude, and everyone can have lunch. And this topic is so important, and how it was great, this panel, this meeting of infrastructure, and making it easier the access development in all of the fields: health, agriculture, communication. And I believe that I'd like to thank the organizers for this panel, that it was great. I'm gonna start with Dr. Sander for your final consideration. Well, first off, I'd like to thank once again. Uh, uh, I'd like to thank on your behalf by TCU, And I believe that what I wanted to bring here is the importance is for us to bring the connectivity through the rural areas in a way that we can make viable that the technologies can be there for the small farmer. So otherwise we're gonna increase the gap between the medium and the small farmer. So it's important not only for our country to guarantee the food security in our country, for the also for the national sovereignty, and we believe that this project is opportunity for us to escalate it here with Anatel, RNT, Telebras. We have a you are very important partners together with the health and thinking about how the agriculture can help on the people health. It's very important, this connection, so I thought it was very rich. I'm gonna ask for the contact of everyone because it's very important for us to discuss a strategy for the country. The questions that I have is about the communities that is far away, the ones how the internet can be delivered to them, and how we are thinking about these initiatives of the about this inclusion exists. I thought it's briefly for an example, one of the pilots that we have is in Breves in the Parajó Island, and it's very important. That is very interesting that you see the people that work with acai. They go up in the trees to collect and to validate the technologies. So we have an app over there to validate with the communities, and we see that the new generations they climb the tree with the cell phone in their bags. They climb the tree to collect the acai with the cell phone in their hand. So we noticed that the cell phone would be a way for them to the new technologies arrive over there, and giving some examples with the so distance communities and vulnerable for us, so we can give them the new technology. But the partnership with the Ministry of Communication and this agent is very important. Thinking about that FUSC was created through this with this beginning of technology and thinking about the internet connectivity, and we need a more strategic program to the connectivity in our country. So this partnership may be a pilot that we are doing already, but it can help in this strategy as a public policy to our country. So once again, thank you very much, and you can count on me. Thank you, Dr. Silva. Now I'm gonna pass for the final remarks of Dr. Cristiano. Thank you, Alexandre. I'd like to highlight that Anatel is a regulated body of this digital transformation in this country, that Anatel has the mission of the inclusion, and the mission of connecting is the meaningful connectivity. Anatel is well known by the importance of stimulating the investment of in infrastructure, but also today in this environment of digital transformation we have a lot to advance, and we have to take care and look about the quality, access, prices, and the prices of devices, and the promotion of the digital platforms. And like to highlight that Anatel is actually this regulator that is open for the dialogues with public actors and private and civil society to advance. None of us alone can make this transform Brazil. Those ones who are not connected, unfortunately, are gonna be disconnected or not included, and we cannot allow that. We also have two questions for me. The first one is Flavia Frev, she said, how can we have the concept of this meaningful connectivity with the defense that Anatel has been with the limited plans of access of internet that is predominant in Brazil? Thank you very much, Flavia, for your question. It's very important to clarify that Anatel don't defend the limited access. What Anatel defend is the free is the the fee competitive is free. They have to have access prices that accessible for everyone. And what we defend is the defense of the client and the protection of the client in an environment of digital citizenship. So, having seen this and clarifying this, I'd like to also, in a direct way, dialogue with what Flavia is asking me. I always accept these challenges about the franchise matter. This is one of model of business, and we have been studying inclusive this business model in other countries, and other countries already changed. They don't treat in this business model with franchise, but it is the competitiveness. And we believe, as I said, the issue and was talking about with IBD studied, and we always say this: the population with low income, they have a period of the month without this franchise. But we have another research by Anatel that complement this, that it has been doing all of the years, and said that 90% of the population, dependently of the income and of the plan, the cell phone plan is different. They use the Wi-Fi at home, so the connection is also by Wi-Fi, and we cannot ignore this reality in Brazil. In our researches, when we are going to implement these policies, we are always open for the civil society and how can we advance to improve this regulation to stimulate the competitiveness. That's about the second question about the well-being institute. How can we implement the IOF for the social community in excluded areas? Can change the rules to be more attractive to the. It was Thank you for these questions, because I cannot talk too much, otherwise Alexandre and Paulo is gonna cut my mic. To advance a little bit in a field that I didn't talk. Anatel, all the ODFs are in our blood. With the five counselors that we have, Counselor Frey, they raise this flag of the old ADFs. It's part of our days. When we decide something in Anatel, we connect it to the OEDFs, so we have a lot of knowledge and connectivity with them. And when we think about excluded community, the vulnerable groups, I'm gonna understand this question as remote areas. And I would like to tell you that of the vulnerable groups, I like to tell you two actions that we are doing to not.
So I don't extend myself too much. The first one is that we have been working in this moment in a university, federal university, to have a pilot to be scalable to the Quilombola communities. I'm seeing Rodrigo. He went, and he's going to tell you this afternoon, he's went to talk to us, and we've been following up the projects that he also follows up in connection community and indigenous communities and Quilombola and river communities, and we have the interest to advance also in the vulnerable communities. About change of rules, and I'm going to talk about a concrete project because I'm here with Susana Rodriguez in front of me, which is in the command and control. And we in Anatel has been changing some rules of HAZA, which is a regulation for the regulation to establish how the sanctions and rules work. And we have the institutes of obligations to do that. We had changes, and we've been maturing those changes in a way that instead of the punishment to be, we transform those fines and obligations introduced. So there are other companies, and we recently have done the vulnerable public of women that had domestic violence and refugee women as well. And we are open, and I've been provoking a lot in joint work, Susanna, and looking at to the digital abilities, and the companies can also advance in other obligations of doing that are related to this. So I hope with that, the Institute of Wellbeing of Brazil, I've answered your question. If not, I'm at your disposal so we can deepen in the subject, okay? Thank you, Cristiana. I'll pass rapidly to Lisandro your final words, please. I will congratulate you for this panel. It's such a satisfaction to be here and see you and the organization of the panel, and the fact of our institutions to be in the same stage talking about such relevant questions, issues, and in a country that is not rare for us to find actions directed for the same objective that is not articulated activities. This one help us to know each other mutually and go beyond of what we know and align those actions in a way that they don't have other activities and coverage the activities that we already have. I would only mention two things before I finish that are very important and complementary. The first about education. We can discuss here about digital sovereignty and special sovereignty. Maybe we are stimulated by this international context that we are at the moment. So we are stimulated. We have to take care of our data, our models, and our infrastructure because we cannot depend the way that we used to of foreigners. And you can read that as you may. This type of debate, I think, is a result of a maturity as a nation and the preparation of new generations for this debate to be enriched, and that is being treated in this global context in a way that is more lucid, and it goes to through education also, and the fact that we can deliver infrastructures not only in the capitals but also, I don't think it's a very good expression, but I say in this deep in Brazil is to prepare the new generations so the new technologies that in availability will can be appropriated by the population in a more conscious way and less dependent in what happens in the global scenario. So I think it's a positive side of our maturity as a country, and there are other few areas that we need to enhance. We're still a developing country, but I see the future as something positive, and the insistence of this panel is the sign of that. Thank you very much. Rodrigo, your final words, please. Also, to thank, as I said before, I think it's very rich, this discussion, and I think that certainly is going to bring some results different of what we have today. I think it's very nice everybody to see this executive area that has been elaborated by the Fair Court of Accounts, and we have some points that we need to improve with the institution of PNID, the International Digital Inclusion Program, and has the capacity of everything that we're talking about here to be applied and bringing outcomes. So I thank you all. And the same Institute Wellbeing of Brazil, I did a question also. When it comes to Telebras, to the public policies, what we have been doing with the public procurement and all that, Telebras has been doing a little bit of what I've already showed, getting to the point. We have the public and federal administration, MTA, DNIT, and of course, planning of attending more as well. So starting next year, our planning try to receive some networks and some points that are being implemented that we can effectively provide all those services. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Tiago. Let's go so we can have lunch, right? I'm just going to briefly say from YouTube that is very interesting. I'm going to have a reflection that I think is very important to mention. The Well-being Institute in Brazil, how the Ministry of Health has been articulating with the policies when it comes to budgeting, and there are some studies on the basic units of health can be hubs of tech connectivity on the communities. I'm not the best person to answer this question, even though we have the scenery to be of the area of health. I'd like to generate a vision that is worth for us. And can you imagine that person that have a lot of children, a men or women, a small city, and then they need to participate to a consultation with telehealth, and they have their timing, their home and quantity of health, and there's no connection for that. How can they connect if there's any sign of Wi-Fi there? There's not, this doesn't exist yet, and the person can go into somebody's house and ask for their password, and it's not rare for us to borrow the password. But what if we had an app that made so that any internet could be securely used, being a social and relevant situation, as being a medical consultation? If only the disposable connection was the one by my side and I couldn't ask if it wasn't borrowed, if there is a way to use a piece of the broadband that is there so we can guarantee the access to public service. And if it was for children to study and they didn't have at home a Wi-Fi because the conditions doesn't allow for them to hire this service, how can we think about a Brazil with so much connectivity? We have two public backbones here being presented today. How can we take advantage of that without the person having to pay? And this finality that in thesis is private, but it's public, to use this app of INSS or GovBR or PIX or whatever, which is this public infrastructure that is digital. I think we need to have a reflection about that, and also say there are perspectives for change on the SUS, and there is an access that's still new for us, and the practice of the lab of innovation, Anatex, and so we can evolve our lab of innovation is to think exactly about that, as I'm putting as an image. How can we create versions of what we already have disposable in Brazil, and other countries don't have it's limited on what we want. How can we transform this into something without borders? I'm not talking about that company. I'm talking about without borders in when it comes to governance, and break those. And we have those free access to public services, and I'd like to think this opportunity in thinking about how we're going to do this. Thank you. Tiago, I asked for the authorization to comment about the network of the scenery of unities of health so people can connect themselves. There is a type of network which is only for educational edu home. We are a university student have with their credentials, they can get into the university, but if they go to Europe, United States, Asia, and we have said now that he can get into there with his credentials. Some societies, scientific societies in Brazil have done this as well, but there is an action and a provocation that is to have the social edu home, which is the same program. There are some international initiatives to do this, but in case of health could be the trigger for this to be implemented in Brazil. a unity of health, have this signal being distributed, and public squares in Brazil already have it whole. And if they had this signal for health, that'd be interesting. Why isn't the unified system of health if they don't have the registration number, they're going to be taken into the hospital. We don't have frontiers for attending to people, so why can't we do that to technology as well, so we can have the space and make that the person have that consultation, and maybe if they miss that consultation, they have to reschedule, and let's think about that, right? Such a pleasure to be here with you today for such a transversal subject and so important for the country. I thank you all, and I'll pass the floor to Messi so we can go to lunch. We thank the presence of all the participants of this panel, mediated by Alexandre Hidihu. Just a few more seconds for the official photograph, and we're going to do the disclosure for the lunch, and then we're going to come back at 2 p.m. Who wants to have lunch on TCU? There's a restaurant in the ground floor and the second floor as well in the other building. We'll see you at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Essa marca aqui é afetiva, né, velho? Pois é, você sabe que ela vai mudar. Cara, faz alguma coisa. Leva umas fichinhas de telefone. O pessoal só